Chapter 487. Loopy Toad pulled Wei Ji into the group. This was Wei Ji's first time being up close with Lord Island, and he was a little excited. I never thought it would really be Lord Island. Lord Island, please show mercy later. Sure, Daoist Guang replied very politely. Now, Wang Ling and grenade-throwing senior immortal were in one team, Loopy Toad and Wei Ji were in another, and Daoist Guang and his number one fan, Brother Sleep, were in another. Now that the 6 members for the Water Friends match had been assembled, all Daoist Guang had to do was announce the chat group number in the bullet messages and add people in order of who had applied first until the number reached 100. At this moment, it was a battle of hand speed. Let me, Lord Island. At that moment, Brother Sleep, who had been silent all this time, spoke. Wang Ling had actually been very curious about this Brother Sleep's identity from the beginning. Because Wang Ling always felt that when this Brother Ju spoke, especially when he was serious, it was very similar to someone in his mind. Brother Ju? Are you really the author who live streams and plays games every day and is urged to update by the readers? Wei Ji asked directly. Behind the screen, when the Brother Ju saw this question, he couldn't help but twitch his lips. No, Wei Ji looked a little disappointed. Sigh. I thought it was. Brother Ju asked with interest, you also read this man's books? Wei Ji, yeah. I really like his Let Go of That Wet Nurse. Brother Ju, Loopy Toad, Wang Ling, grenade-throwing senior immortal, Brother Wei Ji, that book was written by Wang Situ. Wei Ji, oh. In any case, Wang Situ and this 3 Days and 2 Sleeps are both my favorite authors. To avoid the awkwardness, Wei Ji went online to search for the book. After confirming the title, he posted it in the chat group. He took a screenshot of the book's cover and posted it in the group. Yes. Look, this is the book. Thriller Paradise. The number one fan with the ID Brother Ju nodded. This novel is indeed well written. The main character is moody and has a distinct personality. Grenade-throwing senior immortal was suddenly a little curious. What's this book about? Wei Ji, as the name suggests, it tells the story of a young protagonist's growth. Suddenly, one day, the protagonist discovered that the world's spiritual energy had recovered, and then unexpectedly obtained a system. The setting was that whenever the protagonist encountered danger in the future, as long as he cowered, he would be able to convert his cowardice into virtual system currency and use it to purchase various items to make himself stronger. I still remember that the strongest item that the main character bought was a leather sofa. Grenade-throwing senior immortal, if you are interested in this book, you can go and read it later, Brother Ju said. Wei Ji sighed dejectedly in front of the screen. Are you really not Brother Ju? Brother Ju shook his head and laughed. I am not. I am just his fan. Online nicknames are most likely not real. Look at this friend whose ID is immortal too. You guys keep calling him Brother Dog. It can't really be a dog, right? Loopy Toad, before the screen, other than Brother Ju, everyone was speechless. Alright, I'm posting the group number. Just as Brother Ju said that, a sea of requests to join the group were sent in, and the reasons for joining the group were varied. 111, I love Lord Island the most. If you are the fireworks in the sea and I am the foam in the waves, at one moment, your light illuminates me, MUA. I love Lord Island the most. Can I send Lord Island white stockings? In less than 2 minutes, the upper limit for the number of people in the group had been reached. There were at most 100 people in the group, and Daoist Guang had set up the system to automatically review all the applications for joining the group. In addition, to prevent anti-fans of other live streamers from sneaking in, Daoist Guang had specially adjusted the level limit for members. The system would directly filter out applications for alternate accounts with low levels. The chat group instantly became lively. Loopy Toad turned its head to look at Wei Ji next to it, and suddenly realized that he was still looking at the game keys. The corners of its eyes twitched. Are you sure you can do it? You can't even remember the keys. Wei Ji scratched his head. I haven't played this game in a long time. When I played it before, a lot of the mechanisms didn't appear. It's fine, I'll carry you. So confident. It's just a bunch of water friends. As long as they don't use cheats, I think I can beat them. Loopy Toad smiled, looking very confident. Brother Dog, don't look down on water friends too much. Wei Ji sked, and his fingers flew as he quickly opened a web page. Come, Brother Dog, look at this. Loopy Toad craned its head to take a look, and saw that Wei Ji had opened an introduction to a battle team. What's this? The most awesome battle team in the history of our cultivation world is XX Battle Team. There are 10 members in total, but each of them is proficient in all types of games. It's said that they can master a game in 5 minutes, even if it's a puzzle-solving game. They can also create a guide for clearing the game in the shortest time possible. Speaking up to this point, Wei Ji pointed to a young man standing in the middle of the battle team with his arms crossed like a big brother and his eyes squinted as he smiled. This person is the captain of this battle team. He's the legendary Guru Yi who wrote the Guide to Glory. Although XX Battle Team was very famous, people who hadn't been playing games for long actually didn't know much about it. But at the mention of Guru Yi and the Guide to Glory, Loopy Toad instantly had an impression. When Daoist Guang had been in the live stream back then, he had used the highly difficult Z-shake body movement from the Guide to Glory, which Loopy Toad remembered very clearly. Thus, when Wei Ji said this, Loopy Toad looked enlightened. Boss Ye's internet cafe was now called Xian Xing, and the abbreviation of the strongest game team in history just happened to be XX. The most important thing was that both of them had the surname Yi. So, you think Boss Yi is related to this Guru Yi? It's very likely. Wei Ji nodded his head. Back then, XX Battle Team crushed everything in major gaming competitions. Later on, it even developed to the point where clubs paid them to specially research a guide for clearing the game in the shortest time possible. Hearing this, Loopy Toad was a little baffled. But what does this have to do with water friends being strong? Brother Dog, don't you understand? Wei Ji stared at Loopy Toad and couldn't help smiling mysteriously. Do you know how this Guru Yi formed XX Battle Team back then and recruited so many experts? Loopy Toad. Wei Ji, Guru Yi found these people in the bullet messages. Loopy Toad. Chapter 488. After the water friends were assembled for the match, Wang Ling registered his ID, which was as simple and crude as ever, HHXX, short for study well. Grenade-throwing senior immortal had already prepared the account. Wang Ling had initially planned to buy one for himself. Actually, this game wasn't too expensive. The standard online retail price was 98 HNY, but compared with Wang Ling's usual spending on games, 98 HNY was already a huge sum for him. Grenade-throwing senior immortal was quite considerate. When he had played this game before, he had felt that playing solo wasn't very interesting, so he had bought 100 accounts in one go, hoping to pull people into the pit by giving them away. In fact, one of these accounts had been specially prepared for Wang Ling. He felt that one day, he would be able to play a game with Brother Ling. Grenade-throwing senior immortal felt that this was a life achievement, as well as a blessing. In ancient times, people liked to drink when they made friends, especially when they ran into close friends. It was impossible not to drink a few pots. But the new generation of cultivators nowadays didn't like this, and making friends on social networking platforms was always the most convenient way. Since the rise of the PUBG game, there had also been some mockery online about the way modern cultivators made friends. They used to drink 1,000 cups of wine when meeting bosom friends, but now they found a place to lie low. In the villa's basement, Grenade-throwing senior immortal had an office with 5 or 6 computers inside. These were all office computers, and couldn't compare to gaming computers, but they were already considered fighter jets for office computers. They had no problem running the PUBG game. Grenade-throwing senior immortal sat next to Wang Ling with a smile on his face. Brother Ling, do you know where the keys are? Wang Ling nodded. He had taken 2 seconds to look at them just now. The door to the office was open, and Little Silver was sitting on the broccoli sofa outside. He didn't move and looked a little nervous. From this angle, he could see Wang Ling's back. Should we look for Master and ask about the contract? Little Silver was very conflicted, but he was also a little afraid that if he acted rashly, it would backfire. When people were conflicted, it was inevitable that they would feel nervous, and when they were nervous, everyone behaved differently in order to eliminate this nervousness. And Little Silver's most common behavior was to eat. Little Silver had been studying the different ways to make crispy noodle snacks just now, but when he looked at Wang Ling now, he inexplicably became nervous. In his nervousness, he unknowingly opened the crispy noodle snack bag in his hand and took a bite without even using the seasoning packet. Crack. It was just a very faint sound, but it still caught Wang Ling's attention. Little Silver abruptly realized that Master, who had been staring intently at the computer screen, had suddenly turned his head. Little Silver didn't know if it was an illusion, but he felt like Master's eyes were shining. Little Silver instantly broke out in a sweat. Elsewhere, in the Wang family's villa, the door to Father Wang's study was tightly shut. Mother Wang had come over earlier, but when she twisted the doorknob and found that the door was locked, she silently left. Normally, Father Wang's door wouldn't be shut, but whenever it was locked, Mother Wang could only consider one possibility. Father Wang was in arrears again and was writing urgently. Thus, Mother Wang didn't disturb him too much. Furthermore, Lai Mengmeng was also inside, and it was better to have two people inside than one. In the past, when Father Wang had been rushing work, he would lock himself inside, and Mother Wang had been afraid that he would die while he was writing. Nowadays, there were too many reports of writers dying suddenly after staying up all night writing. Even so, there were still some readers who liked to stir up trouble, and would do everything in their power to make the authors in arrears, and would even make them wear women's clothes to pay off their debts. Mother Wang felt that she was still quite young at heart, but she really didn't understand the current trend among young people to wear women's clothes. After all, Father Wang was already getting older. What was so nice about a big, burly man wearing women's clothes? But then again, Mother Wang suddenly realized that if Wang Ling dressed in women's clothes, it would feel pretty good. When Wang Ling was very young, Mother Wang had actually bought him a set of girls' clothes and dressed him up like a little girl. Almost every parent had done this before. Mother Wang remembered that she seemed to have taken a photo at that time. Where did I put the photo of Ling Ling dressed in women's clothes when he was young? At the door of the study, Mother Wang cupped her chin in her hands as she pondered, then walked toward the bedroom on the third floor. Suddenly recalling this matter, Mother Wang immediately decided to find this photo. In the study, Lai Mengmeng heaved a long sigh of relief when he heard Mother Wang's footsteps leave. She left? Father Wang took off his headphones and turned to ask. But brother, you still owe one chapter. Isn't that a bad thing to do? It's fine, I've been in good shape recently, and I'll pay off all the chapters 1 owe in a while. It's rare for us to organize a Water Friends match, so playing games is more important. If you want to play games, then play them openly. Why did you hide it from sister? Lai Mengmeng looked out the door guiltily. Somehow, he felt that this was very immoral behavior. Men always have their little secrets. Although this Lord Island isn't a female live streamer, in any case, I still gave some royalties to his #1 fan. If your sister finds out, she'll definitely nag at me for a long time. There were many times when Father Wang chose not to say anything, but that was to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings. As for the money he had given Lord Island as a reward, that was Father Wang's personal stash of gold, which he handed over most of his monthly royalties. The reward was a small matter, but if the secret stash of gold was exposed, the consequences would be unthinkable. But after thinking it over, Lai Mengmeng still felt that this wasn't right. There are no buts. Brother Lai, you don't understand. Father Wang sighed. You don't have a girlfriend or a family yet. Actually, it's normal that it's hard to understand. If you want your brother and sister to live in peace, just pretend you didn't see this. Your sister and I haven't quarreled. The worst time was when she said she was running away from home, and then she disappeared. Lai Mengmeng, you didn't look for her? Father Wang, look for what? Every time she says she's running away, she hides under the sofa in the basement. She says she's afraid I won't be able to find her. Lai Mengmeng, Father Wang. Then, as soon as I found her, we instantly made up. She even kept asking me if I was hungry and if she wanted to cook me a bowl of noodles. Lai Mengmeng. Father Wang hung his headphones around his neck and stared at Lai Mengmeng, his tone pleading. Apart from writing, I usually only watch live streams and play games as little hobbies. So, can you not say anything? Lai Mengmeng sighed. Fine. I won't say anything, but you have to write 20,000 more words today. Father Wang, 4,000, Lai Mengmeng, 20,000. Father Wang gritted his teeth. 8,000. Lai Mengmeng, 20,000. If you don't agree, I'll tell everyone that you're a fan of 3 days and 2 sleeps. Chapter 489. He was the Grand Wang Situ with countless fans. If other people found out that he was actually a fan of 3 days and 2 sleeps, what would happen? So far, Father Wang's writing career had been smooth sailing. As soon as his first work, Let Go of That Wet Nurse, was released, the data started to show all kinds of crushing and fancy results. Even the godly author of the website, Zhu Gu, was so angry that he left and transferred to another website. After all these years, Father Wang felt that if he really had to pick a destined rival in the circle, it was probably only this 3 days and 2 sleeps. From a content perspective alone, Father Wang felt that this person's story was very rich and interesting. It was a pity that it was written too slowly, and because it often stopped updating every 2 or 3 days, it didn't make it onto the list. If he could resume his normal updates, this person would definitely be a strong opponent. Given Father Wang's current status in the circle, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was at the top. He enjoyed all kinds of resources on the website, enjoyed huge subscriptions, and received praise from fans. But there were times when people couldn't be too arrogant. Lai Mengmeng felt that Father Wang's spirit of being prepared for danger in times of peace was pretty good. Back then, Lai Mengmeng had been very surprised to learn that even the famous Wang Situ, Father Wang, was a fan of 3 days and 2 sleeps. Of course, only Lai Mengmeng himself knew about this. It was an absolute secret to Father Wang. It was actually very common for authors in the same industry to compete with each other and flatter each other in business, but there were also quite a few authors like Father Wang who worshipped individualism in private. As Father Wang's exclusive, Lai Mengmeng felt that there was a lot of room for him to make use of this. At the very least, it was a good way to urge readers to update. Father Wang turned on the voice-changing card and planned to change his voice a little when he played the game later to disguise himself a little. Father Wang had Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal's chat account, so he immediately knew Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal's real identity. When he saw Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal call that person with the ID, Immortal 2, Brother Dog, Father Wang almost immediately guessed that this, Immortal 2, was his family's dog too. Question: what is the experience of playing PUBG with your own spiritual beast? For the time being, Father Wang couldn't answer this question. At the very least, Father Wang would take the game a little more seriously. If his spirit beast were to actually shoot him in the head with a 98K, it would be a huge embarrassment. Daoist Guang's custom mode had already been set up, and everyone entered their rooms one after another as the game was about to begin. Father Wang stared intently at the screen. At that moment, Lai Mengmeng suddenly asked, "What kind of person do you think 3 days and 2 sleeps is?" Aside from the occasional hiatus, he should be a good person. Wasn't he a stay-at-home dad? The child is so young, it really isn't easy for him to write. Like most people, Father Wang had seen this author play live streams when he wasn't doing his job. I heard that he has never attended any event before. It would be great if we could meet him at the annual party. Lai Mengmeng fell silent when he heard this. What happened? Father Wang suddenly felt that Lai Mengmeng's expression didn't look too good. It's fine. Lai Mengmeng smiled. In fact, the website had been guarding a secret regarding the author whose pen name was 3 days and 2 sleeps. Only the higher-ups of the website and the S who had been on the job for more than 10 years knew about this secret. Lai Mengmeng had just been on the job for 10 years last year, and it was the chief who had told him this secret. 3 days and 2 sleeps' real identity wasn't a stay-at-home dad. The 3 days and 2 sleeps who usually played live streams wasn't 3 days and 2 sleeps at all, but the real 3 days and 2 sleeps husband. That was right. That was right. The real 3 days and 2 sleeps. It was actually a woman. The game was about to start, but at that moment, a figure with the air of an aristocratic gentleman stopped at the entrance of the villa. Mr. Liu's gaze fell on the villa. The coordinates on the GPS device in his hand completely matched his own, which already proved that this was the villa he was looking for, and that the green-furred dog was inside. According to the mission President Bai had assigned him, he would first kill this green-furred dog, and then meet the expert who looked like a teenager whom the lady of the castle had mentioned. Mr. Liu pushed up his monocle, and light instantly gushed out of it. This was a heat-sensing scanning ray, and through it, he had already figured out the structure of the villa as well as where the people were located. According to the heat sensor, there were now 3 people in the villa, and all 3 of them were currently in the basement. Where had the dog gone? Mr. Liu felt that something wasn't right. Could it be that the dog wasn't just at level 2? Mr. Liu furrowed his brows as he thought of a situation. This situation could also explain why Elder Han and Elder Kanglin, who had been sent to hunt down the green-furred dog, could not take it down even after joining forces. There was only one truth, that green-furred dog's true realm had already reached level 1, and had even transformed completely. But judging from the heat sensor alone, Mr. Liu couldn't be sure which one was the green-furred dog in human form. How about he kill all 3 of them together? Mr. Liu looked at the time. But if he did that, he wouldn't have enough time, because he was about to get off work. When all was said and done, the reason why Mr. Liu worked for President Bai was because of his high hourly salary. Initially, Mr. Liu had calculated that if it was just dealing with one green-furred dog, he would be able to make it in time. But plans couldn't keep up with changes. If he had to kill 3 people at once, it would definitely take more time. So, standing at the door, Mr. Liu sent President Bai a text message explaining the situation. President Bai replied almost instantly, "Then kill them all, it's your overtime pay." "Very well, President." After receiving further instructions, Mr. Liu closed his phone. As long as he was paid enough overtime, it didn't matter if he had to work like an ox or a horse. Should he break down the door? Mr. Liu gathered his strength in his fists, but very quickly gave up. He felt that this would also be ungentlemanly. A villain also needed to have quality, better to ring the doorbell. As soon as the door opened, he would rush in and kill all 3 of them. Almost the instant Mr. Liu was about to ring the doorbell, Wang Ling's attention was caught by that subtle murderous aura which he had gathered his strength to break down the door earlier. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal took off his headset. "Brother Ling, what's wrong?" Murderous aura. Wang Ling turned his head and looked at the top right corner, which faced the villa's main entrance. "It's Demon Chi." Little Silver also stood up. As a holy beast, he was naturally more sensitive to Demon Chi than human cultivators. Wang Ling looked at the game interface. The game had already entered the preparation stage, and there was no way they could stop. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal looked at Little Silver. "Brother Silver, Brother Ling and I are busy right now, it's time for you to show off." "But this Demon Chi is very strong. It's at least an itinerant immortal. Without Master, I'm afraid I can't do it." Little Silver bit his lip. He actually wanted to fight alongside Wang Ling. Chapter 490. What did it feel like to eat crispy noodle snacks? Little Silver didn't know, because he had been too nervous just now. He had eaten the crispy noodle snack packet in his hand, and had even forgotten to sprinkle the seasoning packets. Who the hell knew what it felt like? But after eating this crispy noodle snack packet, Little Silver could indeed feel a blazing power surge through his body, as if there was a big fireball burning in his dantian. Abundant spirit power? It couldn't be. Little Silver was stupefied. Generally speaking, this was a phenomenon that would only happen at the juncture of a breakthrough. 1,000 years ago, when he had advanced from a 7th-class holy beast to a 6th-class holy beast, he had experienced this feeling. Perhaps it was different from what a normal human cultivator felt when breaking through a realm, but this phenomenon of abundant spirit power was indeed unique to holy beasts when they were about to break through. What the hell? After eating a crispy noodle snack packet, he had super evolved. Little Silver clenched his fists and was stupefied when he felt a strange power surge through his body. It turned out that Loopy Toad really hadn't lied to him. Eating crispy noodle snacks really could help you cultivate. Little Silver felt this was quite inconceivable. He suddenly remembered what Loopy Toad had said before. This batch of crispy noodle snacks had been personally enchanted by Master. Furthermore, each one was a rare collectible, and the packaging and seasoning packets were different. They were clearly much more valuable than the cheap crispy noodle snacks sold outside. At that moment, Little Silver suddenly recalled how Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had begged him for a crispy noodle snack packet, and had even been willing to sell his body to brush his fur. It seemed that the crispy noodle snacks that Master had given him were really something. Thinking about how Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had only done a little physical labor in exchange for a crispy noodle snack packet, Little Silver instantly felt like he had suffered a huge loss. He now had 18 packets left, which he would have to make good use of later. At that moment, as he felt the spirit power surging through his body, Little Silver suddenly regretted eating crispy noodle snacks earlier. He had been stuck at 6th class for many years, and this crispy noodle snack packet was actually able to directly fill his spirit power to the point where he was on the verge of a breakthrough. Even Little Silver himself hadn't expected this. However, when the spiritual energy in the body reached saturation, which was the state of abundant spiritual energy that holy beasts possessed, it would take at least 3 to 5 days of seclusion to fully digest the spiritual energy. And most importantly, he had to avoid fighting as much as possible in these 3 to 5 days, because as long as he fought, he would definitely consume his psionic energy, and this state of psionic abundance would disappear. But obviously, it was too late to say anything now. Although he felt like he had lost the opportunity to advance, he still had the other 18 packets of crispy noodle snacks, so there was still a chance. Little Silver comforted himself in his heart, and a bit of spirit power gathered on the soles of his feet. At that moment, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, who had already entered the game, suddenly thought of something. With a grim expression on his face, he turned his head and shouted, "Brother Silver." "Little Silver?" Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, remember to use the stairs, Little Silver. At the entrance of the villa, Mr. Liu rang the doorbell again. Through the thermal sensor on his monocle, he could already see what was going on inside. Someone was walking toward him. When he saw the figure approaching the door, he reached out and gripped the cane in his hand. This wasn't an ordinary cane, but a special cane-type spirit sword. It looked no different from a cane, but in fact, there was something mysterious about it. Mr. Liu had won this cane at the annual auction of Jingxi International Shopping Center, and had crossed the ocean to deliver it to him a few months ago. This was a second-class holy weapon that cost 10 million immortal gold bars, the Skywalker sword. It was ranked 7th on the overall spirit sword ranking list. Of course, President Bai had paid for this sword on his behalf, and it could be considered the first gift President Bai had given him since hiring him as his personal assistant. A few months ago, Mr. Liu had wanted to quit his job and return to his clan to take a look after his contract expired. After all, he was a demon, and staying in the human world for a long time wasn't a long-term solution. But because of this sword, Mr. Liu had renewed his labor contract with President Bai for another 50 years. Mr. Liu was a kind and virtuous person, which could be seen from the way he rang the doorbell. After all these years at President Bai's side, he still had feelings for him as an old employee. Thus, half of the 50 years he had renewed the contract was for the sake of the sword, and the other half was out of friendship. Mr. Liu gripped the cane. Very soon, he would use this Skywalker sword, which he had bought for the high price of 10 million immortal gold bars, to break in the moment the person inside opened the door, and then chop off the other party's head. The door opened a crack. Narrowing his eyes, Mr. Liu nimbly jumped over the iron gate on the outskirts of the villa, and brandished the Skywalker sword as he attacked Little Silver. An itinerant immortal stretched out his hand extremely quickly. In the eyes of a normal person, it was as if his entire figure had turned into a streak of startling light. Little Silver had only just opened a crack when he already saw a dazzling sword light up in front of him. No wonder the demon Qi is so strong, he really is an itinerant immortal. Little Silver closed his eyes slightly and crossed his arms. He was already prepared. The moment he opened his eyes, the space around him changed, startling Mr. Lu so much that he stopped his attack midway. Mr. Lu spun around in mid-air and took a few steps back. He then realized that the scene before him had actually shifted to a barren desert. An intrinsic spirit field? Mr. Lu turned pale with fright. He never thought that the silver-haired young man in front of him would actually be so powerful. This was an ability that only a true immortal could possess at the very least. However, Little Silver's current strength hadn't reached the level of a true immortal. The reason why he could use an intrinsic spirit field was actually similar to Fang Xing's. Fang Xing's intrinsic spirit field had been passed down from his father, Immortal Shi Pai, while Little Silver's intrinsic spirit field had been passed down from his ancestors. However, Little Silver was much more proficient in using the intrinsic spirit field than Fang Xing. After thousands of years of practice, Little Silver could almost instantly release the intrinsic spirit field. Are you that green-furred dog's owner or friend? Or a humanoid green-furred dog? Mr. Lu asked as he pointed the Skywalker sword at Little Silver. Was this person looking for Loopy Toad? Little Silver reacted very quickly when he heard this question. He remembered that Loopy Toad had mentioned before that after the Demon Hunters Association's matter had been exposed, someone had been hunting it down. But the other party must have made a mistake, and had always thought that Little Silver was Loopy Toad in human form. So whenever someone came looking for trouble, they would find him. Little Silver instantly felt a little hopeless. No matter how much a green-furred dog transformed, it was impossible for it to transform into a silver-haired handsome young man like him. Chapter 491. But right now, no matter what misunderstanding there was, trouble had come looking for him, and solving the problem in front of him was his first priority. Furthermore, Master was also in the room now, so he had to put on a good show. He absolutely couldn't let this person disturb Master while he was playing the game. Little Silver took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. Thinking about it carefully, this was probably his first real battle since Master had brought him to human society after the battle at Immortal Mansion. Little Silver couldn't even remember the names of the senior and junior brothers who had been sent by the Demon Hunters Association previously, because they were so weak that he hadn't paid any attention to them at all. He felt that this old gentleman in a suit in front of him, who looked like an aristocrat, had decent combat strength. But because they hadn't really started fighting yet, Little Silver couldn't estimate the other party's overall combat strength. Thus, Little Silver wouldn't easily release his beast mode unless it was absolutely necessary. In beast mode, his combat strength would be 50% higher than when he was in human form. Even so, Little Silver still remembered that moment at Immortal Mansion when Master had slapped him so hard that even his own mother wouldn't have been able to recognize him. At this thought, Little Silver couldn't help trembling. After calming his thoughts, he looked at Mr. Lu in front of him. You're from the Demon Hunters Association, right? Although he had already guessed this person's identity, Little Silver still asked symbolically in order to confirm it. The answer shouldn't be too different from what he had guessed. Because he was engaged in illegal spirit beast trading all year round, this Mr. Lu had the bloody scent of a spirit beast on him. Ordinary cultivators couldn't smell this scent, but as a holy beast, which was one level higher than a spirit beast, Little Silver was very sensitive. Combined with this thick scent of blood and the thick demon chi on this person's body, it really made Little Silver feel a little nauseous. He didn't know what kind of demon beast this person was. Since you know I'm from the Demon Hunters Association, then you must be the incarnation of that green-furred dog. Mr. Lu raised his Skywalker sword and pointed it at Little Silver. My surname is Lu, and I'm here on the orders of the president of the Demon Hunters Association to take your excellency's life. Mr. Lu stared at the silver-haired young man in front of him and frowned slightly. He vaguely felt that there was something wrong with this matter, but he could not put his finger on it. Think about it, a green-furred dog whose grade was miscalculated, even if it had reached rank 1 and could transform into a human form. Wasn't it a little too abnormal to be able to instantly release an intrinsic spirit field? However, now that things had come to this, and the war was imminent, there was no harm in saying more. He could only wait until he dealt with the young man in front of him. If it was really that green-furred dog, the moment it ran out of spiritual power, it would immediately return to its original form. Even in this intrinsic spirit field where spiritual power was restricted, Mr. Lu had absolute confidence. Tree spirits had very little need for spiritual energy. As long as there was light, there would be nutrition. Although Mr. Lu didn't have an intrinsic spirit field, he was very confident in his endurance, combined with the art of creation and rebirth that he was so proud of. In theory, as long as there was light, any light would do. 1 second of charging, 1 hour of life extension. Little brother, I'm sorry to tell you that the spirit energy restriction of the intrinsic spirit field has no effect on this old man at all. Speaking up to this point, Mr. Lu chuckled. When it came time for the real fight, he didn't give off the slightest bit of murderous intent, and maintained a mysterious smile from beginning to end. Then, Little Silver suddenly felt something bind his feet, as if something had wrapped itself around his ankle and was pulling him down to the ground. He'd fallen into a trap. Seeing this scene, Mr. Lu sneered. He hadn't expected this silver-haired young man's intrinsic spirit field to actually be a desert, and it just so happened that Mr. Lu had plenty of tricks up his sleeve in a desert. For example, right now, Mr. Lu could unwittingly grow a few vines from his heels and silently move forward under the sand, then grab the other party and control him. This move was called Furisha, Dam. Godly King Clan. Little Silver was stupefied. He never thought that he would actually be facing a tree spirit from one of the 3 big Godly King clans. What was a Godly King clan? Even if they weren't holy beasts, they were still very long-lived races. Currently, in the Spirit Beast Circle and the Demon Beast Circle, the 3 big Godly King clans were publicly acknowledged. One was the Toad Clan, one was the Turtle Clan, and the last was the Tree Clan. These 3 clans had one thing in common, and that was that they were extremely tough, had a high defense, and had a lot of blood. It was very difficult to kill them with normal means. In fact, this had already been proven when Loopy Toad was still a sky-swallowing toad. But the fact that Loopy Toad had been able to survive and forcibly merge with Teacher Pan to become a spirit dog at that time was partly due to luck and fate. The reason why Little Silver was stupefied was that this old man in front of him was a humanoid tree demon, which had the strongest self-healing ability among the 3 big Godly King clans. Furthermore, he had a lot of control skills, and it was generally very difficult to get rid of him. But on the other hand, because Little Silver realized that just by raising his foot slightly, the vines on it had actually all snapped. They were as soft as noodles. What was going on? Little Silver was stupefied. It wasn't just Little Silver. On the other side, Mr. Lu couldn't help frowning when he saw this scene. Frisia. Gritting his teeth, he controlled the next wave of vines to wrap around Little Silver. Little Silver lifted his foot again and snapped the vines. The corners of Mr. Lu's mouth twitched as he continued to grit his teeth. Golden Frisia. Little Silver lifted his foot, it snapped again, Diamond Frisia. Then, Little Silver continued to lift his foot, the vines continued to snap. After 4 rounds, Mr. Lu was already on his knees, panting as he cursed inwardly. What the F***K, lifting his foot was even easier than sweeping up orange peels. Using control skills consecutively drained Mr. Lu to a certain extent. However, he quickly replenished his depleted spiritual power to a certain extent through the power of light. This person isn't easy to deal with. This was Mr. Lu's conclusion after 4 rounds. On the other side, after these 4 rounds, Little Silver had also figured something out. When he had eaten the crispy noodle snacks earlier, he had felt a special force entrenched in his body. When he had been controlled just now, this special force had split into a stream of air which had disintegrated the vines. With the support of this special force, he was now 100% immune to control. Chapter 492. In fact, 100% immunity to control was just one of the effects of eating the crispy noodle snacks. This special force entrenched in Little Silver's body was none other than Wang Ling's own primordial qi. In the face of Wang Ling's primordial qi, all negative conditions would instantly collapse. It wasn't just these simple and crude control skills, even poison attacks were ineffective against Little Silver now. Furthermore, Wang Ling's primordial qi wasn't just limited to defense. It could even strengthen ordinary attacks. With the support of this primordial qi, the power of his spirit techniques and spells would multiply. Wang Ling's primordial qi was a special substance that had automatically formed in his body at a very young age. The truth was that the Dao Talisman seal on Wang Ling contained a Wang Ling substance, which in fact suppressed the primordial qi that Wang Ling's body produced on its own in a steady stream. The reason why Wang Ling's slap had hurt so much when he had slapped Evil Sword God earlier was actually because of the primordial qi. However, because of the Dao Talisman seal, the primordial qi in his body was now at a normal level. If he didn't control it, once the concentration of primordial qi exceeded the norm, the primordial qi wouldn't be able to withstand it. In the battle with Evil Sword God, Wang Ling's slap, Evil Sword God might have been destroyed on the spot, and it was clear that Little Silver was also aware of this. He didn't know that this force was Wang Ling's primordial qi, but he could genuinely feel that all his attributes seemed to have been strengthened. Little Silver now finally understood that the abundance of spirit energy was just a small halo that came with eating the enchanted crispy noodle snacks. This special force entrenched in his body was the real key. But although all his attributes had been strengthened, Little Silver's aura hadn't changed. And this was the most miraculous thing about primordial qi, it was like an invisible cheat. Mr. Lu furrowed his brows at the consecutive failures of his control. He was already proficient in these binding spells, and they were most suitable for use in this kind of terrain. In the past 1,000 years, whenever he made a move, he had never failed to control them. If it was an ordinary demon beast, especially in an extremely tense battle atmosphere, it was very likely that it would be thrown into disarray if something unexpected happened. However, Mr. Lu was indeed Mr. Lu. As members of the Tree Clan, regardless of whether it was a spirit tree or a demon tree, the Tree Clan had a rather big characteristic, which was that they were steady. He was diligent in thinking and would not panic. Although Mr. Lu realized that the silver-haired young man before him would not be easy to deal with, he was still extremely confident. Formless sword qi. He injected his magic power into the spirit sword in his hand. Little Silver immediately saw multicolored sword qi surge out from the tip of the sword and gradually cover the entire blade. Then, the sword disappeared as if it had evaporated from his line of sight. Each sword had its own special attribute. For example, Evil Sword God's heaven-cleaving sword represented the destructive power of primal chaos. The brilliant victory in grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's hand represented the ultimate defense and parrying power. The Skywalker in Mr. Lu's hand represented the ultimate nothingness. When Formless Sword Qi was activated, this sword would directly dissolve in the air and launch a sneak attack when necessary. It had the flavor of the highest realm of Sword Dao, the Traceless Mind Sword. However, the true Heart Sword was much more powerful than the Skywalker Sword. It was practically a destructive force that could destroy anything. In the end, the Skywalker Sword's Formless Sword Qi only had the form, but not the spirit. Even so, the Skywalker Sword was ranked very high on the list of swords. Almost all the top 10 spirit swords on the overall list were first-class holy weapons, and the Skywalker Sword was the only second-class sword. Little Silver had been too bored at home these days, so he had done some research online on the weapons used by human cultivators. He hadn't expected the spirit sword in this Mr. Lu's hand to actually be a famous one. To be honest, if Mr. Lu hadn't used Formless Sword Qi, Little Silver really wouldn't have been able to tell that this was the Skywalker Sword. Somehow, Little Silver felt that there was something wrong with this sword, because it didn't look quite the same as the real thing he had seen on the list of swords. When had the Skywalker Sword become a staff sword? Little Silver felt it was a little strange, but it wasn't his place to ask. After all, nowadays there were plenty of bored human cultivators who liked to repackage famous swords they had bought at a high price to their liking. Little Silver didn't think it was strange if the sword's appearance had been remodeled. After looking at each other for a while inside the intrinsic spirit field, the two of them had already made up their minds. Mr. Lu decided to adopt a protracted battle of attrition. He would use his superb recovery ability and toughness to fight Little Silver to the end with the Skywalker Sword. Of course, Little Silver wasn't a fool. The Tree Clan's recovery ability was famous. Little Silver's plan was to end the battle quickly, and he had to deal a heavy blow that couldn't be recovered from. After looking at each other for a few seconds, an ice-cold glazed sword light condensed in the air and almost stabbed at Little Silver's cheek. Little Silver hurriedly leaned to the side and avoided the blow. The Skywalker sword chi suddenly appeared out of thin air and took away a few strands of little silver hair. This was a very tricky angle. Little Silver felt that if it wasn't for the primordial chi which enhanced his six senses, he really would have suffered a heavy blow. But having said that, Little Silver actually felt that Mr. Lu's attack was a little strange. Logically speaking, the other party was determined to pick a fight, and wouldn't show any mercy. But judging from the power of the sword chi emitted by the Skywalker sword just now, even though it was indeed very fast and unexpected, Little Silver somehow felt that the sword chi itself wasn't as powerful as he had imagined. "My friend, there seems to be something wrong with your sword." Little Silver voiced his doubts. But Little Silver didn't get a reply from Mr. Lu despite his good intentions. Instead, Mr. Lu launched another attack. "I bought this Skywalker sword from Jingxi Mall for 10 million immortal gold bars. There's absolutely no problem with it." "Why won't you believe me?" Little Silver sighed. He didn't defend himself at all. He raised his fists, his feet shook, and his entire body shot toward Mr. Lu like a cannon. Mr. Lu hadn't expected the other party's attack to be so simple and crude. He hurriedly summoned the Skywalker sword from the air to block it. He recited a spell, and Little Silver quickly sensed a sword light coming at him from the front. But this time, Little Silver chose to directly ignore it, and used his fists to collide with the Skywalker sword light. Throwing an egg at a rock. Seeing this scene, Mr. Lu couldn't help sneering. However, the outcome was beyond Mr. Lu's expectations. Sword and fist collided, emitting a crisp sound of collision. Chapter 493. Mr. Lu never thought that his Skywalker sword would actually crumble so thoroughly. That was a grade 2 Saint-Tier artifact. Why had a second-class holy weapon turned into a pile of dregs when it collided with a fist? Watching this scene, Mr. Lu was petrified the moment the Skywalker sword shattered. When he came back to his senses, Little Silver's fist was already pressed against his face. Then, Mr. Lu's face came into close contact with Little Silver's fist, and he was sent flying by the punch. His face was deeply sunken in. It was as if this punch had hit a thick tree trunk, and it left a deep dent in Mr. Lu's face. So weak, Little Silver stared at Mr. Lu, who had been sent flying by his punch, and his face broke out in sweat as he almost subconsciously blurted this out. The Tree Clan wasn't very lethal to begin with, it was just their toughness and powerful recovery abilities. Even the spells they cast were mostly control spells. Spirit beasts and demon beasts had their own positions, and so did holy beasts. Little Silver represented the Silver Unicorn clan, and among the holy beasts, he was a tanky berserker. Not only could he fight, he was also an absolute strength-type warrior. If a holy war broke out between holy beasts, silver unicorns would be at the forefront. Unfortunately, the holy war back then didn't break out in the end. The procedure for launching a holy war was very complicated. A holy beast assembly was held, and the leaders of each clan would participate in the voting, and the final result would be decided. Little Silver remembered that when the first holy beast assembly was held, all the representatives of the holy beasts had come together. As a junior, Little Silver had been given the right to sit in at the back. At the first holy beast assembly, the holy beast representatives of each clan had had a heated discussion about human cultivators who had recently listened to rumors and captured holy beasts. Thus, some holy beast representatives had suggested launching a holy war. Unfortunately, because the impact of the incident had been relatively small, the holy beasts of the other clans hadn't realized the seriousness of the problem. Thus, the proposal for the first holy beast holy war fell through just like that. After that, it was the second assembly. As the representative of the Dog clan's holy beasts, Dog Saint once again proposed a holy beast holy war, asking the holy beasts to unite against the human cultivators who cruelly preyed on holy beasts. Unfortunately, this proposal was not passed. Little Silver sat in the back of the auditorium for every holy beast general assembly, so he clearly remembered what had happened. Little Silver clearly remembered that by the time of the third holy beast general assembly, the number of holy beast representatives from each clan had already dropped by half compared with the first one. Those who didn't show up were said to have been eaten, and Dog Saint was impressively on the list of people to be eaten, Little Silver remembered that his face had already been indifferent as he sat in the spectator seats. He remembered that he hadn't spoken for a very long time. After all, he was a witness to Dog Saint being stewed in hot pot. At this year's Sacred Beast Conference, only half of the Sacred Beast representatives were left, and they finally realized the seriousness of the problem. However, in view of the humans' ferocious and violent arrogance, the representatives of the holy beasts felt that it was not appropriate to start a holy beast holy war at the moment. This was because if they were to fight to the death, the holy beasts might be completely wiped out in the end. At that time, the representatives' opinion was to send holy beast ambassadors to negotiate with the human cultivators to clarify the rumor that eating holy beasts could increase one's realm, and to sign a non-aggression treaty with the human cultivators. And then, Little Silver remembered, that year, the Sacred Beast ambassador who had been sent out never returned. And then, because there were no Holy Beast representatives at the 4th Holy Beast Conference, later, this conference was never held again. In the moment of the battle, Little Silver had analyzed the attributes of his Silver Unicorn clan and thought of the Holy Beast Conference. He felt a sense of loss and sorrow in his heart, thus, as the only remaining member of the Silver Unicorn clan who were tanky berserkers, Little Silver had an overwhelming advantage. In terms of combat strength, it could be said that Little Silver already had an overwhelming advantage from the very beginning. But even so, Little Silver felt that it was still a little too exaggerated for him to shatter a second-class holy weapon with one punch. Furthermore, he hadn't even used his full strength. Mr. Liu had been absent-minded when he saw his Skywalker sword being broken just now, and thus suffered a direct punch from Little Silver. Now, he was lying on the ground in the distance, his face burning with pain. Creation. Method of rebirth. Mr. Liu roared in his heart, and a green light gushed out of the wound on his face. However, this light only repaired the sunken shape of his face. The injury on his face actually didn't heal at all, and even the hematoma didn't go down. How is this possible? Mr. Liu's face was full of shock. His creation method of rebirth had actually failed? Not far away, Little Silver brushed the sawdust off his fist and walked over to Mr. Liu. Crouching down, he looked at Mr. Liu's bruised and swollen face and couldn't help sighing. It's no use. I smeared a layer of my saliva on my fist earlier, and it's especially effective against healing spells. Mr. Liu. What kind of operation was this? Actually, Little Silver had said it was saliva because he was worried about Mr. Liu's feelings, but it actually wasn't saliva at all. It was Little Silver's phlegm. Apart from dissolving corpses, Little Silver's phlegm in fact had many other, wondrous uses. Even so, you can't destroy my Skywalker sword with one punch. Mr. Liu's heart ached like a pitiful old man, and the rims of his eyes reddened in a flash. The Treants were creatures with tough bodies to begin with, but their hearts were weak. Little Silver stared at the old man in front of him who looked like he was about to cry, and for a moment, couldn't bring himself to attack him. Because this Mr. Liu was indeed pitiful enough, Little Silver crooked his finger and caught the fragments of the Skywalker sword in the distance, weighing them in his hand. Sure enough, just as he had expected, there was something fishy about the Skywalker sword. If it had been a genuine second-class holy weapon, even if it had been reduced to fragments, the quality of the fragments wouldn't have been so low. Therefore, this Skywalker sword was a genuine counterfeit. You've been tricked. This isn't the Skywalker sword at all. Little Silver pursed his lips and didn't know what to say. He could already hear Mr. Liu sobbing. Impossible. This is impossible. Our president spent 10 million immortal gold bars to buy it for me. It's impossible for Jingxi International Shopping to have a fake. Unconvinced, Mr. Liu took out his phone from his pocket and even showed Little Silver a screenshot of the electronic order. Looking at the picture, it was indeed the same as the one in Little Silver's memory. Staring at the picture, Little Silver cupped his chin in his hand and thought it was very strange. But why is yours a cane sword? The seller said that he had remodeled the Skywalker sword. After that, Mr. Liu provided a second screenshot. This time, the real object in the screenshot was the cane sword in Mr. Liu's hand. Then, in front of Mr. Liu, Little Silver used the real object search function to browse the electronic shopping mall, and sure enough, he found a lot of spirit swords that looked exactly the same as this cane sword. Furthermore, the name of the cane sword wasn't that different from the Skywalker sword. Chapter 494. Because Mr. Liu had decided to resign back then, President Bai had decided to give Mr. Liu a gift before he left and use his emotions to persuade him to stay. The tree clan was a relatively simple species to begin with, and it turned out that President Bai's plan to keep Mr. Liu around was quite successful. However, this was just the beginning of President Bai's deception. Mr. Liu had indeed taken a fancy to this Skywalker sword back then, and he had also sent detailed information on the spirit sword to President Bai. But this was the suspicious part of the entire incident. As a human, it was impossible for President Bai not to see the difference between heaven and heaven. Little Silver also felt that President Bai had probably arranged for him to spend 10 million immortal gold bars to buy the sword in advance. No one would be stupid enough to spend 10 million immortal gold bars on a 9th-class holy artifact. Furthermore, it was very likely that President Bai had opened that international shop himself. So from the very beginning, this transaction had been one in which money went out of one's left pocket and into one's right pocket. President Bai had only spent a very small amount of money to open the shop, and he had kept such a powerful Tree Clan assistant by his side. This was a deal that was guaranteed to be profitable. There's only one truth. Little Silver stood up with a red bow in his hand. If my guess is correct, this is the truth. Little Silver didn't have any substantial evidence at the moment. But when Mr. Liu thought carefully about Little Silver's analysis, he indeed found a lot of suspicious points. For example, he had realized earlier that the fake Skywalker sword in his hand didn't have a sword spirit. How could a spirit sword ranked 7th on the list of swords not have a sword spirit? But Mr. Bai's explanation to him was that it was precisely because the Skywalker sword ranked 7th on the list that the process to summon a sword spirit was more complicated than that of an ordinary spirit sword. He had just obtained this sword and needed some time to use it. Once the compatibility reached a certain level, the sword spirit could be summoned. These were Mr. Bai's original words, and the naive Mr. Liu had believed them without a doubt. But now that Mr. Liu had calmed down and thought about it, he indeed felt that this was complete nonsense. My God! I was actually deceived. What a cunning human! Mr. Liu finally realized that he had been deceived, and the tears in his eyes flowed uncontrollably. He never imagined that he, the quasi-demon god of the forest fairy, would be tricked to such an extent. If word of this got out, how would he be able to face his elders and fellow tribesmen in the clan? How long have you been in the human world? Little Silver couldn't help asking. It's been 200 years. Mr. Liu said as he wiped his tears. It was just that the intruder's aura had become extremely weak. Then, Little Silver grabbed the badly battered Mr. Liu like a chick and directly jumped down from the hole he had punched through on the first floor, throwing Mr. Liu behind grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Wang Ling. Little Silver clapped his hands. I'm done. What the hell? So fast? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was indescribably shaken. Little Silver gave him a thumbs up and couldn't help praising him. Master's crispy noodle snacks are really amazing. At that moment, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal noticed that Mr. Liu, who was lying on the ground with a bloody nose and a swollen face, was actually sobbing in a low voice, like a young girl in love who had lost her EQ. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, what's wrong with him? Little Silver sighed. It's another classic case of someone being cheated online and having a mental breakdown. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Mr. Liu knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Wang Ling and grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, who were playing the game. Two supreme gods. I was as blind as a bat. I'm willing to expose President Bai. Wang Ling looked at the game map calmly and focused on the game, completely ignoring everything else as he thought about where on earth would be the best place to jump. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal also put his headphones back on. He knew that when Wang Ling was focused, he wouldn't care about anything else at all. The most important thing now was the game. So there was no point in talking about this Mr. Liu now. Everything would have to wait until after the game was over. Seeing that Wang Ling and grenade-throwing Senior Immortal were ignoring him, Mr. Liu suddenly felt a little nervous. Two supreme gods. Everything I said is true. Please forgive me, great immortal. Two supreme gods, I was wrong. I really was wrong. Two supreme gods, at that moment, the blue veins on Wang Ling's forehead twitched. He took out a mouse pad and threw it at Mr. Lu's face. This movement was so fast that it was almost done in one go. Before Mr. Lu could react, he was hit by the mouse pad. This was just a very casual blow from Wang Ling, but Mr. Lu's entire body was sent flying, and he smashed into the wall of the basement along with the mouse pad. It didn't penetrate the wall, but it was already on the verge of collapsing. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal heard the noise behind him. Even if he didn't turn his head, he could already imagine the mess behind him. This time, he would have to fork out another renovation fee. Little Silver sweated. He had forgotten to tell Mr. Lu that it was best not to disturb Master when he was playing the game. Little Silver called out in a very low voice to Mr. Lu, who was embedded in the wall. Mr. Lu? Are you still alive? With a swollen face, Mr. Lu fell to the ground and gave Little Silver a thumbs up. Chapter 495. When the mousepad hit his face, Mr. Lu almost died on the spot. Fortunately, Wang Ling had only thrown it casually and hadn't used his full strength. Mr. Lu had never met Wang Ling before, and had no idea at all how strong this master, whom the silver-haired young man had mentioned was. But after Wang Ling's toss, Mr. Lu could now be considered to have completely widened his horizons. Obviously, this young man who was playing the game was definitely a big shot. A mouse pad almost sent him straight to the underworld. Who knew what terrible things would happen if this senior really got angry? Little Silver looked at Mr. Lu, who was lying on the ground twitching slightly. Mr. Lu's spell of creation and rebirth was still being restricted by Little Silver's phlegm. It wasn't that he couldn't recover, but that he was recovering at the speed of a turtle, as if he had the serious injury effect. When Mr. Lu raised his head, his face was covered in green tree blood. It was obvious that the mousepad Wang Ling had thrown earlier hadn't been light on him. The swelling on his face was even more swollen than before, and it looked like he had sustained very serious internal injuries. If it hadn't been for Little Silver's phlegm, it would have been very easy for Mr. Lu to recover from his injury. Little Silver did some calculations. It would take at least 20 minutes for the restrictive effect of his phlegm to wear off. Little Silver started to worry about Mr. Lu's injury. I say, is it really okay? Sprawled on the ground, Mr. Lu made an okay gesture and said with great difficulty, My ribs are broken, but I can still hold on. This level of injury was already Mr. Lu's limit. If he suffered another beating from Wang Ling before he fully recovered, Mr. Lu was sure that he would immediately die. Little Silver comforted him in a low voice. You're actually quite tenacious to be able to survive Master's attack. It's better if you don't move in your current state. Wait until my phlegm, saliva wears off. Your creation rebirth spell will be able to take effect. Mr. Lu sprawled on the ground, looking as if he had nothing left to live for. Whether it was phlegm or saliva, it was no longer important. Little Silver crouched next to Mr. Lu and couldn't help asking, You said earlier that you came to kill that green-furred dog? Mr. Lu nodded. Yes. I have a total of 2 tasks today. Killing the green-furred dog is only the first task. But it seems like there was a mistake. There's no mistake. Little Silver pointed at Wang Ling with a speechless expression. My master is also the owner of that green-furred dog. Mr. Lu, Little Silver had only asked a few casual questions, but he realized that he seemed to have asked a few interesting things. You just said that you have a second mission? At this point, Mr. Lu had already decided to switch sides in his heart and didn't plan to hide anything at all. He had to send President Bai, that swindler, to prison. The first task was given by President Bai. The second task was assigned to the intelligence organization that President Bai is working with, which is called Mo Immortal Castle. Mo Immortal Castle? Little Silver was startled by this name, because he remembered vaguely hearing grenade-throwing Senior Immortal mention this organization before. What do they want you to do? They said that there was an expert who looked like a teenager who had been fighting against them. Thus, I discussed it with President Bai and wanted to send me to test out this expert's skills. Mr. Liu answered in full detail. According to the information provided by Mo Immortal Castle, this expert lives in a villa on East Huang Road. The mansion on East Huang Road. Little Silver was startled again. East Huang Road was very long. If it had just been East Huang Road, Little Silver might not have thought of it, but when it came to the villa on East Huang Road, he reacted almost instantly. A villa in such a remote place. Which other villa could it be? Speaking up to this point, Mr. Liu lay prone on the ground and laughed mockingly. It's hard for me to even walk in my current state, so it's definitely impossible for me to cause trouble for that expert who looks like a teenager. The corners of Little Silver's mouth twitched, and he couldn't help dropping his forehead into his hand as he looked at Mr. Liu. Actually, I know that expert who looks like a teenager. You know him? Who? Mr. Liu asked in disbelief. Little Silver pointed at Wang Ling again. The one who hit you with the mousepad just now. Mr. Liu already couldn't help cursing in his heart. At that moment, the Water Friends match organized by Daoist Guang had officially begun. A lot of people had gathered in the live stream room. Because of this custom Water Friends match, Daoist Guang's popularity had directly skyrocketed once again, and the number of people in the live stream room had already reached 5 million. This was a number that Daoist Guang had only reached after a few hours of live streaming 2 days ago. Some people even predicted in the bullet messages that Daoist Guang's live stream audience might directly break 10 million today. What kind of concept was 10 million? If Daoist Guang really reached this number, it was very likely that he would directly make history. He would become the fastest live streamer in the history of the Cultivation live stream platform to break 10 million online viewers. Daoist Guang is a little amazing. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal clicked his tongue in his heart when he looked at the number of live stream viewers. He remembered that when he had first set up the Cultivation forum, it had taken him several years to stabilize the number of daily active users at 10 million. It had taken Daoist Guang more than a week to break 5 million. After today, it might really break 10 million. Furthermore, given the current growth rate and user activity on the Cultivation live stream platform, it was possible that Daoist Guang's live stream audience would break 100 million in the future. Previously, Daoist Guang had been saying that he wanted to research how to make figurines, and then turn his audience into his believers. Then, he would put his figurines in their homes and burn incense whenever he was free. The bullet messages in the live stream room were exceptionally lively. Daoist Guang had already landed and was strolling around with a rifle in his hand, looking for a katana. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal could hear Daoist Guang's voice. Everyone, please rest assured. If I find a katana, I'll immediately throw this lousy gun away. Now, you can place your bets and see how many Water Friends I can kill today. There was a delay in the live stream, so Daoist Guang actually didn't have to worry about some Water Friends in the competition peeking at him with ulterior motives. The bets had already been opened, but now wasn't the time for Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal to place his bets. He and Wang Ling were still floating in the air, and Daoist Guang had already picked up his basic equipment. Wang Ling had chosen a very strange angle to land on a military base in the distance, which players were used to calling an airport. They had actually landed a little late. When they landed, Wang Ling had already noticed the kill notification in the top right corner of the public screen. Player, TTXS, used Doozy to kill player, Xiaqinsang Bai, TTXS. The corners of Wang Ling's mouth couldn't help twitching at this ID. Upwards ho! Chapter 496. Wang Ling felt that there probably weren't many people who had the same kind of brain circuit as him, and this TTXS gave him a very familiar feeling. It would be great if he could sense auras, Wang Ling mused in his heart. As Daoist Guang had said, apart from auxiliary spells that could enhance one's six senses, all other spells were useless in this kind of digital game. Aura perception, heavenly eye, and the like were all useless. Many cultivators like to open their heavenly eyes in battle to avoid illusion spells, since they could separate the fake from the real. But if you really encountered a Voldemort lying in the grass in a ghillie suit, the heavenly eye wouldn't be of any use at all. The first reason was because this was real data. Second, because this group of Voldemort really knew how to lie low. Like Daoist Guang, the only thing they could do was use some small spells to strengthen their hearing and vision. Casting spells on oneself, strictly speaking, was not cheating. It was more of an opportunistic, physical cheat, just like how some players like to hold a magnifying glass to a high magnification lens on a computer to achieve the effect of a magnifying glass. But Wang Ling knew that there would definitely be people using cheats in a Water Friends match, and it was very likely that there would be more than one. This was when it came to a competition to see who could buy the most advanced software. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Wang Ling had just landed when the total number of people on the screen had already dropped to 80. It had only been less than 3 minutes since the start of the game. A player with the ID, Snake, had already appeared in the kill list in the public screen, and almost all the players who had been killed had been headshots. Brother Ling, someone's using cheats, what should we do? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal looked at the screen and the corners of his mouth twitched. He didn't need to look at the bullet messages to know that there was definitely already a lot of abuse. F***K. Using cheats in this kind of game? Everyone just wants to play with Lord Island, they have no manners. Lord Island, please check this ID and don't let him enter the Book Friends match next time. I'm guessing that this person is probably a fan of another live streamer who's deliberately causing trouble. Those Water Friends who had been killed by this Snake at the start of the game ran to the live stream room one after another to complain to Lord Island in a bullet message. Wang Ling didn't pay too much attention to it. When they landed, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal followed Wang Ling into a building to pick up things. After just searching one floor, the two of them found bulletproof vests, helmets, rifles and scopes. When they reached the second floor, they opened a room and found a first aid kit, painkillers and energy drinks. After spending 2 minutes ransacking a building, Wang Ling and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal were fully equipped with level 3 sets of equipment, a sniper rifle and rifle in each hand, frying pans on their backs, and ample ammunition and medicine in their backpacks. Why was his luck so good today? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was stunned. In the past, when he was alone, he would have to ransack a few houses before he could find what he wanted. The worst part was that he would often fail to find his backpack. Even if there was something, he couldn't pick it up. In fact, this was because the effects of the Great Fortune spell he had used earlier were still there. Of course, the effect of the Great Fortune spell would disappear at midnight today. Hence, Wang Ling felt that games were really boring. When it came to PUBG, most players focused their fun on finding supplies and accessories, and then destroying other players. But for Wang Ling, as long as the Great Fortune spell was active, the fun of finding supplies was gone. From the start of the game until now, the only fun Wang Ling had experienced was parachuting. This thing was just a parachuting simulator. At that moment, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal looked at the number of people left. Almost 6 minutes had passed in the game, but there were only 60 people left. The player with the ID, Snake, was still using his cheat to slaughter the other Water Friends in a frenzy. Water Friends complained incessantly, and that mysterious Snake whose whereabouts were unknown boldly posted a high-level bullet message in the live stream room. I'm on the top of the Iron Tower at the airport. Show your head if you dare. If you dare show your head, I'll kill you. Apart from the number 1 fan in the live stream room, the other Water Friends had to pay 50 HNY to post high-level bullet messages. The bullet messages in the live stream room completely exploded. Damn. Too arrogant. Are all people who use cheats nowadays so awesome? Brother Ling, do you want to punish him? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sighed. The building they were currently in was actually within the range of the airport, but it was at the edge of the airport. However, it actually wasn't far from the Iron Tower that Snake was talking about. The Iron Tower that Snake was talking about was the large crane next to the C building in the central area of the airport map, which players commonly called Youtiao. The terrain here was very high, and it was the easiest place to kill someone. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal wanted to punish this player who used cheats, and Wang Ling actually didn't have much of an opinion. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was in the same group as Wang Ling, so he was naturally also covered by the halo of the Great Fortune spell. The balance of luck was on their side, even if someone used cheats, they might not be able to kill them. But not long after grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said this, another message appeared on the public screen. Player TTXS used Doozy to kill player Snake with a headshot. Wang Ling and grenade-throwing Senior Immortal didn't expect this. Before they could move, this snake had already been punished by someone else. Furthermore, Wang Ling noticed that the person who had killed Snake was actually TTXS, whom he had noticed earlier. At the same time, in the study of the Wang family's small villa, Father Wang also burst into cheers. Well done, Little Ming. Father Wang had long since guessed that there would most likely be cheats in this kind of Water Friends match, so he had already gotten rid of Little Ming to research anti-cheat sanctioned software. Among the 100 people in this Water Friends match, Wang Ming's alternate account had actually been secretly infiltrated. This was all arranged by Father Wang in advance. Father Wang's voice window was currently connected to Wang Ming. Hee hee, Uncle Wang, you flatter me, it's nothing. Wang Ming laughed, his voice very magnetic. But I neglected to think about it. The anti-cheat software I spent 3 minutes designing previously left out an anti-tracking mechanism, so there's no way to locate a person who's using a cheat. After I got rid of this cheater, I spent 10 seconds just now to add this mechanism. Father Wang sweated. But for this kind of cheater, it should be able to unlock health, right? Lai Mengmeng asked on the side. Wang Ming shook his head. It's no use. My bullets are invincible, and a pistol bullet can also kill people with a headshot. Lai Mengmeng, Father Wang smiled like a lotus. Ha 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 ha. That's great. These cheaters are the most annoying. Wang Ming, don't worry, uncle, go ahead and play. If there's a cheat, just leave it to me. Father Wang nodded reassuringly. But come to think of it, can those players who died earlier be resurrected? Wang Ming, Uncle Wang, you want to resurrect them? No problem. Lai Mengmeng was stunned. What the hell? That works. Wang Ming's tone was very certain. No problem, it's fine as long as they were killed by cheaters. I'll write a plugin for my anti-cheat sanctioned software now. Father Wang and Lai Mengmeng, Wang Ming, I'll call this plugin Samsara Heavenly Life. Chapter 497. After the player with the ID Snake was killed in a headshot by Wang Ming's sanction, in a high-end apartment complex in Jinghua City, a fat otaku with a face full of stubble sat behind a screen, his hands off the keyboard as he sighed deeply. He ate instant noodles as he spoke on the phone. Hello, is this Brother Baboon? On the other end of the line came a slightly rough voice like that of a gorilla. Mission accomplished? Fat otaku was blank. No. I failed. Failed? Didn't you use cheats? The man on the other end of the line had an incredulous expression on his face. This Brother Baboon was a game live streamer who had been singled out and banned by Focus Talk a while ago because he used cheats and had very poor character. He knew that he was already done for. After going on that kind of show and being banned by the entire platform, he might never have a chance to make a name for himself again. This had been a very depressing thing for him for a long time, so after careful planning, he decided to retaliate against the most popular live streamers on the internet. He wanted to arrange for Water Friends to use cheats in every game of these live streamers to reduce their gaming experience to the lowest possible level. Daoist Guan's Water Friends match was actually a small experiment before Brother Baboon launched his all-out revenge. But he never thought that the person he had arranged would actually fail. Fat Otaku also had a strange expression on his face when he was questioned. I also find it very strange. I clearly unlocked my health, but the other side still shot me in the head with an Uzi. The other side must also be an immortal, that's impossible. Brother Baboon shook his head. The cheats I bought are the best on the internet. The monthly rent is 200,000. When the game is updated, the cheats will be updated at the same time. There are no middlemen to earn the difference. But Brother Baboon, this person's cheats are really better than ours. If you don't believe me, open the live stream room and we'll analyze it. Fat Otaku didn't know how to explain as he stirred the instant noodles with a fork. As he explained, he opened Daoist Guang's live stream room. Then, he directly spat out a mouthful of instant noodles onto the screen. Pooh! What's wrong? Asked Brother Baboon. Fat Otaku pointed at the screen, a noodle dripping down his nostrils. What the F***K? Brother Baboon, all those people I killed just now have been resurrected. Brother Baboon, in Daoist Guang's live stream room, the water friends who had been killed earlier were all extremely excited. The number of viewers in the live stream had also soared to 8 million. Sometimes, just looking at the host punishing those who used cheats was already quite a move to attract fans. Now, there was actually a streamer who could ask someone to directly counter the cheat and resurrect all the people killed by the cheat. This operation left many people speechless for a while. So this TTXS is the anti-cheat sanction expert that Lord Island found? F***CK. Lord Island was awesome. Where did you find such a big shot? Once you enter the light-chasing sect, you swear to die a light-chasing sect. He had no regrets about entering the light pursuit realm. Lord Island is awesome. I've turned into a fan. I already hate those people who use cheats. Now that the host is doing this, it's really satisfying. Not only did this give Daoist Guang's light chasers face, even passerby fans felt proud when they saw this scene. In that instant, Daoist Guang saw the number of his fan tags increase like crazy, and wave after wave of gifts came in such a way that he couldn't even name them. This miraculous resurrection scene immediately became a hot topic, and the link to Daoist Guang's live stream room was crazily forwarded by netizens. Only Daoist Guang himself was stupefied. What anti-cheat sanction expert? He hadn't hired anyone at all. Elsewhere, in grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's villa. Glancing at his phone, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's face was full of amazement. This brother called TTXS is a little amazing. In fact, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal could already guess the identity of this TTXS. How many people in Huaxiao Nation could develop this sort of inhuman anti-cheat ruling software, infiltrate the game flawlessly, and achieve this kind of theoretically impossible resurrection miracle? How many people like this could you find in Huaxiao Nation? To directly infiltrate the game terminal and change the death records of those who had already been killed by cheats in the game to achieve resurrection. Even Little Black didn't have this kind of ability. In this Huaxiao Nation, the only person who could surpass Little Black in this area was Wang Ming. Furthermore, even if Little Black had the ability to directly infiltrate the game terminal and change data, if he left any clues and the people from the game company sued him, the consequences would be unthinkable. After all, this was a form of hacking. But if it was Wang Ming, there was no need to consider this problem at all. Not to mention whether this group of people from the game company would catch a loophole in Wang Ming's intrusion this time. Even if they did catch a loophole, if they investigated Wang Ming's identity, they would still be forced to retreat. President Xi and General Yi's group of people were on equal footing. Even if it wasn't for Wang Ming's sake, when all was said and done, there was still President Xi. In that instant, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal pondered this over and over in his heart. Because there was one question that he found very strange: if this TTXS was Wang Ming's identity. If this TTXS was Wang Ming, then there was no way Daoist Guang had specially invited him over. In fact, Daoist Guang didn't know that Wang Ling had a cousin called Wang Ming at all. The two of them weren't even chat friends, so why would they play games together? Then there was actually only one final answer: it was very likely that someone else had arranged for Wang Ming to join. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal knew that Mother Wang didn't play games, and Loopy Toad had Wei Ji to accompany it today. In the Wang family, apart from Brother Ling, who did Brother Wang Ming listen to the most? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal almost instantly had an answer to this question in his heart. Then, the situation was actually very clear now. There was no doubt that this TTXS was Brother Wang Ming. And Brother Wang Ming had definitely been invited by Brother Ling's father, Senior Wang. As for Senior Wang's suspected ID in the game, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal also had an answer in his heart. Previously, he had heard that number one fan, Brother Sleep, keep mentioning online novels. If grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's guess was correct, this Brother Sleep's identity was most likely Senior Wang. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal looked at the number of people who had been restored after the Samsara Heavenly Life plugin had taken effect. In the top right corner of the screen, the current number of people was 87. All the water friends who had been killed by the cheat had already been resurrected. At this point, a long time had already passed in the game. At that moment, a system prompt popped up, 30 seconds until the next blue circle shrank. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was alarmed. Not good, Brother Ling. We have to outrun the blue circle. He nudged Wang Ling with his elbow and then opened the map. Then, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was astonished to find that their building was in the very center of the safe zone. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal? AI, Wang Ling sighed, a little bored to death. Because of the Great Fortune spell, he knew that the building he was in right now was 100% the final heavenly circle. So, no matter how the blue circle shrank in the end, as long as he was here, he was in the very center of the safe zone. For the first time, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that a game could actually be this boring. After the Water Friends match that day, Little Silver asked grenade-throwing Senior Immortal curiously, Grenade-throwing. How does it feel to play games with Master? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal smiled slightly. Just lie down. Chapter 498. Of course, Wang Ling had also thought of what grenade-throwing Senior Immortal could think of. It was just that he hadn't dared be sure. Playing the same game as his own spirit beast was already a very magical feeling to Wang Ling. Now that he had a player he suspected was his own father, he was instantly at a loss for words. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Wang Ling were lying on the roof of the military base, bored out of their minds as they enjoyed the breeze. To their left was the Youtiao, and to their right was the C building, which formed a perfect angle. Furthermore, they were lying on the walls for cover, so the angle was very tricky. Unless someone rushed down the building, even if they were standing on the Youtiao, they might not be able to find them. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's heart almost collapsed. There was no gaming experience at all. The only difference between this and turning into a box as soon as they landed was that their equipment and potions were full. But they weren't of any use at all, so, their current state was 2 human-shaped boxes? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that this analogy was quite apartment. He realized that as long as he was with Wang Ling, there would be no such thing as a heavenly circle, not in this lifetime. When other people played games, whether or not they could encounter a heavenly circle depended on their luck. When Wang Ling played games, whether or not he could encounter a heavenly circle depended entirely on him. Wherever Wang Ling was, the safe zone was there. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had initially thought that playing games with Wang Ling was a very exciting experience. But unfortunately, the first time was worse than he had imagined. In a daze, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal took off his headphones and got up. Little Silver, grenade-throwing, you're not playing anymore? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's face was wooden. I'm going to eat some broccoli salad to calm down, Little Silver. But, the game is still going on here. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal smiled slightly. It's fine, with Brother Ling here, I can win even if I play with my feet. Wang Ling and Little Silver, this was indeed a very unpleasant gaming experience. Actually, it was rare for Wang Ling to play a game, so he really wanted to show off his skills. But because of the Great Fortune spell, he definitely couldn't show off his skills today. In fact, the most important thing was that once the Great Fortune spell was activated, it couldn't be cancelled at will, which was the biggest headache. Wang Ling knew that grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's gaming experience was very poor. Not everyone's personality was suited to be a condescending king. At that moment, Wang Ling saw that the system's third blue circle had already been refreshed. He opened the map. Sure enough, they were still in the center of the safe zone. While grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was eating the broccoli salad, Wang Ling suddenly thought of a way to verify whether that number one fan, Brother Sleep, was Father Wang. When he left the house today, Wang Ling knew that Lai Mengmeng and Father Wang were in the study. Every month, Father Wang would have several days when his novels exploded, and Lai Mengmeng would specially drop by to urge Father Wang to update them more. Now that the book The Live Streaming Life of the Immortal King was on the right track, Father Wang usually no longer had the habit of stockpiling drafts. The manuscripts that had been saved before the start of the novel were all used up in the first month of the Wang family's novel in order to compete for the monthly votes. The Water Friends competition organized by Daoist Guang had been going on since the morning. Wang Ling still remembered that this #1 fan, Brother Ju, had been very active in the live stream room, announcing the event and chatting with him. That was to say, despite Lai Mengmeng personally dropping by to urge him to update, Father Wang's novel hadn't been updated today. Then there was definitely something wrong with it. Curious, Wang Ling opened the novel software app to take a look. Sure enough, everything was as he had expected. Father Wang's novel hadn't been released today. Solid proof. Wang Ling looked at the book review section for Father Wang's novel. Because there hadn't been any updates all morning, the rush for updates party had already built a skyscraper in the review section. Should he post a book review? Suddenly, Wang Ling had the urge to be mischievous. Roughly 10 seconds later, Wang Ling's book review was finished. Shocking. Some novel author is neglecting his duties, and is actually playing games with well-known new live streamer Lord Island. It was a very short sentence, and Wang Ling didn't even leave Father Wang's game ID. But Wang Ling believed that the effect of this book review would absolutely be explosive. After all, you never knew how terrifying a group of book friends clamoring for an author to dress in women's clothes all day long could be. Elsewhere, in the study of the Wang family's small villa, Father Wang and Daoist Guang worked very well together. In total, the two of them had killed 5 people. Daoist Guang had killed 3 people, while Father Wang had freeloaded 2. Actually, Father Wang didn't think that he was very talented in games, but there were times when he liked to play. Earlier, Father Wang had sent Daoist Guang a private message to explain that he was the one who had found the anti-cheating sanction expert. Of course, Father Wang hadn't specifically said who it was, and only said that it was a friend. There were times when the word friend really was a universal explanation. If there was something that couldn't be explained clearly, you could just blame it on a friend. At that moment, Father Wang's phone on the table vibrated. Seeing that it was a voice message from Wang Ming, he hurriedly turned off the mic that was connected to him and Daoist Guang. He was in a team with Lord Island, and they were working together. If he didn't turn off the mic, his private conversation with Wang Ming would be recorded. "Uncle, can I ask you something? Is Ling Ling at home today?" "Ling Ling, he's at home. He's busy revising for the midterm exams," Father Wang replied swiftly. "At home? Okay, got it." Wang Ming grinned, already having an answer in his heart. Father Wang felt that there was something wrong with Wang Ming's laughter, and he couldn't help exhorting him, "Don't take your little brother out to play games. You would have graduated long ago at his age. He's not as smart as you are, and I can't even get him to keep his grades down." Keep his grades down, Wang Ming opened his mouth, but in the end didn't have the courage to refute Father Wang. What he actually wanted to say was that sometimes, the person who kept their grades down was the real big shot. The third blue circle refreshed, and the number of people returned to 60. This number was actually still considered normal, but when Father Wang looked at the kill notifications on the public screen, he noticed that someone with the ID, WF, had killed 3 people in a row with a 98k headshot. "Little Ming, can you check if this WF is using cheats?" Father Wang said. 5 seconds later, Wang Ming's message came through. "No, this person isn't using cheats. He's an expert. His marksmanship is very accurate. So far, he's killed 7 people, and each one was a headshot. So awesome." Father Wang said. Sure enough, there were still experts in this game. "Do you want me to get rid of this person?" Wang Ming smiled. "Don't. It's fine as long as he's not using cheats. Uncle might be a noob, but I still have integrity." Wang Ming covered his face and laughed. "Uncle, if you have integrity, you should be writing now." Hearing this, Father Wang was unexpectedly speechless. Chapter 499. Wang Ming was hiding in a small two-story building. This was a very safe location, and the game character, TTXS, which Wang Ming had created, had intelligently chosen this location based on the location of the safe zone's refresh and the movement routes of nearby players. Based on the results of the software's calculations, the game character would prioritize the safest, shortest path with cover and a relatively wide field of view, and walk over on its own. As a professional cheat adjudicator, Wang Ming's current anti-cheat software had been continuously debugged and improved, and the character in the game could operate automatically, as if possessed by a soul. Wang Ming didn't even need to move the mouse or the keyboard, he only needed to use voice input to give instructions. TTXS was now crouching on the balcony on the second floor of this building, and there was already no one coming from behind it. As long as it was the direction TTXS was aimed at, there would definitely be someone passing by. But it hadn't been long since TTXS had occupied this small building, when Wang Ming immediately issued the next command. TTXS, move immediately. Find WF's position. Although Father Wang had already told him not to pay attention to it, Wang Ming was still a little concerned about this player with the ID, WF. Perhaps it was because of his intuition that he had a brother complex. In any case, this WF made Wang Ming feel uncomfortable. As the character, TTXS, moved on its own to track WF's specific position, Wang Ming swiftly cut to the screen, and his fingers flew as he searched the terminal code in an attempt to find information on this WF. He could even directly modify the death data on the game company's terminal, and make those water friends who had already died reincarnate. For Wang Ming, searching for information on a person was a piece of cake. While Wang Ming was working, President Qi watched from the side with a cup of immortal spirit coffee in his hand. TCH, it's just a game, is it worth it? It wasn't easy for my uncle to ask me for help, of course I have to do it, Wang Ming said. I think you're doing this for your little brother, right? President Qi asked. Wang Ming, President Qi chuckled. Let me remind you, Zhai Yin will be back in 30 minutes. At the mention of Zhai Yin, Wang Ming couldn't help sweating on his forehead. There's still time, President Qi deliberately made small talk with Wang Ming, but in the end realized that Wang Ming's operation wasn't affected at all. A player's personal information was important data for a game company, and there were many ways to protect it. In theory, it was much more difficult than modifying the death data of water friends on the terminal. This also involved the game company's personal security measures, and what Wang Ming was doing now was to steal information on this player with the ID, WF, without the game company's defense system noticing. Judging from Wang Ming's expression, it was really too easy. In less than a minute, Wang Ming had already given his IP the highest level of authority to hack into the game company's computer. Tisk, so fast. President Qi couldn't help sighing in his heart. In the end, it was still the strongest brain. When he was younger, he had actually been able to do something similar, but in the end, he still couldn't match Wang Ming's current speed. At his peak, President Qi felt that it would take him at least 5 minutes to hack into a player's information without leaving anything to chance. But he still couldn't help asking, you didn't get caught hacking in so quickly, did you? Wang Ming shook his head. No, if I did, I'll cut open my brain for you to see. President Qi, don't say. I've always had this urge. Wang Ming, President Qi, you can change your name. From now on, don't use Wang Shower as the pseudonym on your ID card, it's very old-fashioned. Wang Ming, what do you mean, President? President Qi, you can change it to Wang Zilong. Wang Ming? President Qi couldn't help laughing. You're going in and out of the game company's customer data like it's in Changban. Does their security consultant not want face? Wang Ming, although Wang Ming had already hacked in successfully, it would still take some time to retrieve the data. External computers couldn't analyze such a massive amount of data at all, and it was really difficult to accurately lock onto a single person from the vast expanse of player data. Without the Research Institute's computers, it really wouldn't be possible. But speaking of retrieving the data, Wang Ming suddenly remembered that he really had to find some time to look for Wang Ling soon. The sword chi data left behind by Daoist Guang's tattered Daoist robe had already been traced back to him. The coordinates of this data were very strange. It seemed to be inside the gate between worlds, but at the same time, it wasn't. Wang Ming felt that he had to find some time to clarify this with Wang Ling in person. The result of the data analysis was an encrypted code. It wasn't something that could be explained through chatting online. While Wang Ming was pondering this, the search results came out on the computer. Online games nowadays required a real name system. This player with the ID, WF, was no exception. Wang Ming also saw the registered ID's real name, Fangxing. Wang Ming scratched his chin. Wasn't this the little brat who had been harassing his family's Wang Ling a while ago? After seeing this name, Wang Ming made up his mind. He was going to get rid of this guy. On the other side, grenade-throwing senior immortal had already finished his broccoli salad and was back. He saw that his and Wang Ling's characters were still lying on the rooftop, motionless. At that moment, it was already the fourth time the blue circle had shrunk, and there were less than 50 people left. Wang Ling and grenade-throwing senior immortal were still in the center of the safe zone. Grenade-throwing senior immortal got up to take a look. Actually, this circle was already a little small, and he guessed that the second half of the game would be a little more interesting. At the very least, he could see people on the map and start looting. So far in the game, he hadn't used a single 5.56 bullet in his fully loaded silenced M416. Blue House 105, there's someone on the second floor. At that moment, grenade-throwing senior immortal suddenly heard Wang Ling's telepathic message. Wow! Finally! Grenade-throwing senior immortal switched to a 4x scope. He knew it was time for him to show off his skills. He opened his scope to take a look, and sure enough, he saw a figure moving through the window of the blue house Wang Ling had mentioned. Brother Ling, watch me. Bang. 1 shot. Bang. 2 shots. Grenade-throwing senior immortal was very confident in his marksmanship. Of the 2 shots just now, one had knocked off this person's helmet and the other had hit his bulletproof vest. As long as grenade-throwing senior immortal's third shot hit his head, this person would undoubtedly die. But when grenade-throwing senior immortal fired his third shot, he realized that this person had actually already collapsed, and the person who had been killed wasn't him. Grenade-throwing senior immortal looked at the top right corner of the public screen. WF. Chapter 500. Grenade-throwing senior immortal had waited so long for this opportunity, and felt that it hadn't come easily. In the end, just as he had the chance to show off, his head was snatched away. Grenade-throwing senior immortal could only describe this kind of behavior in 8 words. 1. Outrageous. 2. Insane. But grenade-throwing senior immortal couldn't say much. After all, it was very normal for multiple teams to target the same target sometimes. It could only be said that the water friend in the blue room was too unlucky to be sniped by experts from both sides at the same time. In the end, he didn't even know how he had died. But grenade-throwing senior immortal actually felt that there was no need to be too anxious. There were still 46 people left, so there were still plenty of opportunities. The newly spawned safe zone had enveloped the entire Sosnovka Peninsula on the map. When the players who were still alive saw the spawn of the safe zone, they would definitely move toward the direction of the Sosnovka Peninsula. However, if they wanted to get closer to the airport peninsula, they would either have to take a speedboat or swim across the river. Otherwise, they would have to fight them head-on on the bridge. Usually, when the safe zone refreshed to the Sosnovka military base, there would definitely be people waiting at the bridge to loot. Previously, there was a sharp decrease in the number of people from 60 to 50. That was because someone had died heroically while crossing the bridge. This wasn't a cheat, but a normal wave of casualties. If it had been a cheat, grenade-throwing senior immortal reckoned that Wang Ming would have already punished this group of people. So, in a little while, grenade-throwing senior immortal could already foresee a major counterattack on the same scale as Li Yunlong's attack on Pingan County. Wang Ling and grenade-throwing senior immortal now had a relatively advantageous position, because this place just so happened to be a blind spot for the crane, and it would be very difficult for the people on the Youtiao to discover them. Secondly, no one would expect the final destiny circle to appear in this house. Because the other half of the airfield peninsula was a wild area, when it was almost time for the decisive battle, the final circle would most likely appear in a wild map. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that the probability of it hitting a house was comparable to the probability of Wang Ling speaking. Thinking this, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal stole a glance at Wang Ling out of the corner of his eye. He knew that Wang Ling could read minds, but from Wang Ling's expression, it was very clear that he hadn't been. Otherwise, his face would have darkened a long time ago. But this also showed that Wang Ling was very focused as he played the game. Although the gaming experience wasn't very good, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal instantly felt very lucky to be able to see Wang Ling's completely different attitude from when he was studying. To him, his brother Ling would always be a role model for him to learn from. Sensing that there were more and more people around, Wang Ling's expression gradually turned serious. In the distance, Wang Ling could already see many small black dots moving in different directions. More and more people were already approaching the airport. But at this distance, even with his eyesight, he could only see moving pixels. Unless he cheated, even a sniper rifle wouldn't be able to hit him. He still needed to get a little closer. He found an angle, opened his scope, and aimed at the pixel closest to him. It was a team of people on motorcycles, and Wang Ling soon felt that he could snipe them. "There's a team in the NW direction," Wang Ling said telepathically, his voice as cold as ever. Actually, Wang Ling could fight them himself, but he didn't want to steal Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's chance to show off. At the very least, he needed to experience the game a little. Based on Wang Ling's report, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal very quickly took aim at the team. Both of them were wearing a full set of third-level equipment, and looked like two fat sheep. One of them seemed to be carrying an AWM on his back, which was a godly sniper weapon in this game. Unfortunately, these two people were too far away, so even if they were killed, they wouldn't be able to pick up the bag. "Goodbye, brother." Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal narrowed his eyes and clicked the mouse. With a crisp bang, the 98K in his hand directly blew up one of the people's third-level helmets. Just as Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was about to fire a second shot, this person had already fallen to the ground, and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's second shot just happened to finish him off. On the public screen, the kill notification came. Player WF killed player Piapiku with M24 headshot. Wang Ling, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. His kill had been stolen again. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal adjusted his breathing and did his best to calm it down. Emotional fluctuations could directly affect the accuracy of a shot, and for an outstanding long-range sniper, emotional fluctuations were a big taboo. He didn't want to explode just because someone had snatched 2 kills from him. "Brother Ling, I'll definitely kill someone today for you to see." Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal took a deep breath. He opened his scope and started to aim at the Piapiku teammate. "Brother Ling, I'll definitely kill someone today for you to see." Wang Ling, because his teammate had been killed by a sniper rifle, this person had swiftly found the nearest cover to hide in. It was a toilet, and the terrain was actually very bad. Chapter 501. The moment WF had killed him with a headshot, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's hands had already left the keyboard. He had never expected this WF to actually pick up the AWM that the previous person had been carrying and directly kill him with a headshot. This was the most powerful sniper rifle in the game. Even if you wore a helmet, it was useless. No matter what level your helmet or armor was, you would directly fall to the ground. At this distance, even if Wang Ling wanted to come over and help him up, he wouldn't be able to catch up. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's heart was filled with despair that almost drove him crazy. He had just wanted to show off a little in front of Wang Ling, but he hadn't expected things to turn out contrary to his wishes. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sighed in his heart. It was so hard to play games nowadays, but Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had to admit that this WF was really skilled. "Brother Ling, you have to be careful." This person has probably already discovered our position, grenade-throwing senior immortal said as he took off his headphones and looked at Wang Ling next to him. Wang Ling gave a low in a low voice. To be able to restrict grenade-throwing senior immortal to this extent, if it wasn't a cheat, it was enough to show that this WF was indeed very skilled. Although grenade-throwing senior immortal claimed that he hadn't played this game for a long time, during the craziest period before, he had dragged Immortal Toya to play as a duo and the two of them had rushed into the top 50 of Huaxio's national server. This WF was at least 50th and above, and was clearly a veteran who was very familiar with the map. Given Wang Ling's eyesight, even without enhanced vision, he could still see the minute pixel movements on the map. However, the location of this WF had not been exposed from the beginning to the end. He had been using various blind spots on the map, moving around, and changing cover to conceal his location. This alone was enough to prove how strong this person was. But Wang Ling had a feeling that this WF might be someone close to him. Narrowing his eyes slightly, Wang Ling controlled his character to swiftly look for the next target to enter his shooting range. On the other side, another team in a jeep slowly entered Wang Ling's shooting range. Wang Ling had just opened his scope to take a look, and before he was ready to take action, he immediately heard the crisp sound of a gunshot in the distance. Boom! The UAZ was shot through by the AWM and exploded on the spot. System. Player, WF, used an AWM to detonate a vehicle, killing players, Washizazahui, and Washigushinal. Wang Ling, very good. Now, Wang Ling was 90% sure that this WF was definitely someone close to him, and was most likely here for him, as this WF went on a killing spree. There were more and more doubts about him in Daoist Guang's live stream room. In fact, this was very normal. When a person's operation exceeded the standard of ordinary people, they would basically be said to have cheats. This kind of voice was inevitable, just like when Daoist Guang's live stream had become popular a while ago, he had also been questioned. But after Daoist Guang had chopped down 20 people in a row with a katana and helped a little brother win chicken dinner, the voices of doubt had clearly lessened. After all, even those trolls had never seen this kind of operation of continuously chopping down people with a melee weapon and helping a person win chicken dinner, and they really didn't know where to start. At that time, the super administrator of the Cultivation live stream platform had specially come to monitor Daoist Guang's live stream data, and hadn't found anything unusual. Now that Daoist Guang had more and more fans and the light chasers continued to support him, to a certain extent, the trend of people with ulterior motives deliberately helping Daoist Guang use cheats back then was eased. To put it bluntly, whether he used cheats or not depended purely on whether the audience bought it or not. For a passerby to play so well, unless he had an identity that matched his strength, in the eyes of the vast majority of the audience, this person was no different from those immortals who used cheats. Lord Island, is that WF really not using cheats? I don't believe it. His ID is all over the public screen in reality, and he's about to flood the screen. Could this be some guru's alternate account? Looking at the bullet messages, Daoist Guang felt that the situation wasn't right, so he asked Father Wang, Brother Ju, what did your anti-cheat brother say? He's already run tests. This person's data is all normal, and he's not a cheat. This anti-cheat system my friend designed can detect him in an instant, even if he's using self-aiming and X-ray vision, Father Wang replied with a smile. After all, it was Little Ming who had designed the software. Who was Little Ming? This was the most powerful brain in the country. In order to make their games look better, many live streamers nowadays would choose to use an X-ray vision cheat, no matter how accurate their marksmanship was. In this way, they could discover as many enemies as possible and obtain the resources they wanted. Furthermore, X-ray vision cheats were the most difficult to detect. Rich live streamers nowadays would choose to split the screen with another monitor, so that the audience wouldn't be able to see anything unusual at all during the live stream. To be able to detect an X-ray vision cheat in an instant, this anti-cheat software could already be said to be quite formidable. Of course, there was almost no doubt in the bullet messages in the live stream room about Father Wang's words. Because before this, Wang Ming had already used his anti-cheat sanctioned software to recreate the earth-shattering operation of Samsara Tianxing, resurrecting water friends. Compared with anti-cheat software that could even resurrect the dead, detecting cheating through X-ray vision and the like was a completely normal operation. At that moment, Daoist Guang and Father Wang were crouched in a small building outside the airport, which happened to be on the edge of the safe zone. They planned to wait until the next safe zone refreshed before taking action, so they were going to stay here for a while. At that moment, Daoist Guang heard the sound of a door opening downstairs. It was so loud that all the water friends in the live stream room heard it. Someone was coming. Daoist Guang and Father Wang aimed their rifles at the entrance to the corridor. If this person dared show his head, he would die. But the man's step stopped at the top of the stairs on the first floor. "Don't be nervous, it's me." Right after that, the water friends in the live stream room heard an unfamiliar voice. Was it Little Ming? When Father Wang heard Wang Ming's voice, he immediately heaved a sigh of relief. "Lord Island, this is my anti-cheat friend." Daoist Guang nodded and put away his gun. "Little brother, it's been hard on you. Do you need anything?" "I have everything here." "I don't need anything, I don't need anything." Wang Ming smiled. "I punished those people who cheated earlier, so all their equipment was mine." Water friends, Daoist Guang, Father Wang, Daoist Guang, then this brother called WF really isn't a cheat? "Of course not, I can test it out here." "No anti-cheat software from any game company or live stream platform is as good as mine," Wang Ming said. "But I'm going to meet him now." "Where is this brother?" asked Daoist Guang. "This brother's movements are very erratic, but I want to fight him here in the crane," Wang Ming quickly replied with an enigmatic smile on his face. "I know that brother is definitely watching Lord Island's live stream right now, so I specially came over to explain the situation to Lord Island." Daoist Guang, "Then what do you mean, little brother?" Wang Ming, "I want Lord Island to come with me. Broadcast our fight. Everyone, don't interfere. I just think that person is too arrogant, so I want to help everyone vent their anger." A live broadcast was fine. Wang Ling glanced at the live stream room. Wang Ming's voice didn't surprise him at all. But very quickly, Wang Ming added, "Another thing is that I want to take this opportunity to show off my stupid little brother's skills." Wang Ling. King retard. Chapter 502. Wang Ming knew that Wang Ling would definitely be watching the live stream as he said this. He knew Wang Ling's personality too well, and he felt that even if he used his but to think, he could guess what Wang Ling was planning. Wang Ming felt that this was a rare opportunity for him to show off. He couldn't compare to Wang Ling in cultivation, but at least in this digitalized game world, he felt that he could indeed do whatever he wanted. Daoist Guang and Father Wang had a fully equipped jeep which they had specially prepared for their charge into the circle. Now, Wang Ming was in the driver's seat, honking and stepping on the accelerator as he sped off in the direction of the Youtiao. Of course, it wasn't actually Wang Ming who was driving the car, but the character he had created called TTXS. Thus, Wang Ming didn't have to worry about the car flipping over at all, and it was precisely because of this that the car could perform a lot of inhuman tricks. Accelerate. Wang Ming gave TTXS the order, and the jeep abruptly sped up to the maximum. This was at the edge of the Sosnovka military base circle. There were many different obstacles. Many people would choose to abandon their cars and walk through the circle. This was because it was a classic case of driving a car back and forth between the obstacles and crashing into them. When the jeep jumped over a stone, a lot of people in the bullet messages thought it was going to flip over. "Ah! The iron gates of the airport are right in front, can't you just drive around the stone block?" Infuriating live streamer. "Damn! The car is going to flip over. It's definitely going to explode, this is the death stone block, I've flipped over here countless times. This anti-cheat brother's driving skills aren't good, he definitely hasn't gotten a driver's license yet." For a moment, a lot of people were talking about it in the live stream room. In the end, something unexpected happened. When the Jeep jumped over the stone block at top speed, not only did it not get stuck, it instead jumped up and passed through the iron gates in front of it like a tornado. What the hell? What kind of operation was this? Those people didn't know that this was an intelligent operation directly controlled by Wang Ming's software, and thought that it was Wang Ming himself who had done it. In an instant, the live stream room was flooded with 666 comments, and even Daoist Guang and Father Wang were kept in the dark. Am I handsome? Wang Ming asked softly. I couldn't tell that little brother had this skill. Daoist Guang sked. To be honest, this maneuver was a little showy. If he were to participate in the Fast and the Furious 8+ with his driving skills, wow. Little brother anti-cheat's move is too amazing. Coach, I want to learn. Coach, you want to learn everything? I can't teach you. This move is too difficult. I can't learn it. Looking at the bullet messages in the live stream room, Wang Ming couldn't help laughing. You want to learn? I can teach you. This move is called Tornado Charge Tornado. Four-wheel drive brothers, please understand. The fans were speechless. Father Wang and Daoist Guang, Wang Ling, what kind of tornado charge was this? He was afraid that the rapid cobras were coming out from behind. This was a very meticulous and precise maneuver. Wang Ming was very confident in the software he had designed. The game was nothing more than a mass of data, and the artificial intelligence system implanted in Wang Ming's anti-cheat software could not only precisely control the character, but could also maximize the character's abilities based on the game's reasonable data. That was to say, all the maneuvers that Wang Ming's character could perform were currently the limits of what was possible in this game. This was already the last few circles, and there were less than 30 people left. All the gunfire had already stopped. Some meddlesome fans in the live stream room had named this battle, Decisive Battle. Crane, Youtiao, Summit, at that moment, everyone's attention was on them. All the water friends participating in this water friend match had already agreed that no one was allowed to shoot before the battle between Wang Ming and Fang Xing was over. The jeep soon arrived at the bottom of the suspension bridge, and Wang Ming got out. Good luck, brother, Daoist Guang said solemnly. In the end, Father Wang chose to stay in the car, while Daoist Guang followed behind Wang Ming to act as a live broadcast member. The two of them maintained a distance of several body lengths. Because Daoist Guang was the camera in the live stream room, he could only do his best to change his angle of view so that the water friends in the live stream room could see the battle more clearly. On the other side, the figure of that mysterious WF finally made its debut in front of everyone. It was a female character with a ponytail and a baseball cap. She was wearing a black jacket and a short skirt, both of which were rare items in the game. Most importantly, this miniskirt was pink. Mini-skirts were the most valuable among rare fashion items, and a limited edition mini-skirt could fetch a very high price. Usually, a mini-skirt could sell for thousands or even tens of thousands of HNY. Players could obtain these mini-skirts through online transactions. But the pink mini-skirt was the only one that couldn't be bought, because there were only 3 of them in the entire server, and this was the only mini-skirt that was banned from sale. Thus, it could only be sold together with the account. Previously, there had been an account with a pink mini-skirt which sold for a super high price of 3,000 immortal gold bars. For many ordinary players, this was already an immeasurable value. For a game account to sell for 3,000 immortal gold bars just because of a fashion item was truly shocking. After seeing the real WF in Daoist Guang's live stream room, there was a flurry of bullet messages. What the hell? What did I see? A pink mini-skirt. As expected, it's impossible to understand the world of the nouveau riche, not necessarily. This mini-skirt might not have been bought, but if it was drawn, then this little brother's account is definitely very old. For many players who were familiar with the game, the pink miniskirt had become a symbol of the strong. Conversely, this just showed that this WF player was something. At that moment, Wang Ming and Fang Xing's characters were facing each other. The atmosphere was extremely tense. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the image from Daoist Guang's first-person perspective. Father Wang, Loopy Toad and Wei Ji, Wang Ling and grenade-throwing senior immortal, everyone was watching intently. The two of them faced each other. As if they had already discussed this beforehand, they switched their guns to sniper rifles. A 98K against a sniper rifle? Wang Ling was also startled at this scene. But very quickly, everyone heard two slightly overlapping gunshots. Shots fired. Wang Ming's character reacted almost the instant Fang Xing fired, and he swiftly moved sideways to hide behind an iron pillar on the crane. At the same time, he fired back with a backhand shot. This movement was almost synchronized with Fang Xing's action. His reaction was swift and smooth, and it was too much for the eye to take in. But if you had a certain level of dynamic vision, you would be able to see this scene very clearly. Wang Ling saw Fang Xing's bullet hit the iron pillar in front of Wang Ming, while Wang Ming's backhand shot was blocked by the frying pan which Fang Xing had switched to in a flash. That works. Everyone was stunned. The two of them were sniping at each other at close range, but neither of them had hit the other. But it was at that moment that a scene that made everyone's jaws drop happened, because Daoist Guang saw Wang Ming actually take out a frying pan. The character controlled by Wang Ming waved it lightly. Bang! The bullet which Fang Xing had blocked with the frying pan just now, was sent back. F***K. Daoist Guang couldn't help swearing. F***K. Chapter 503. What was going on? Not everyone's realm was at the soul formation stage. Their movements were really too fast. From Daoist Guang's perspective of the live stream, he could barely see the two of them waving the frying pans in their hands, and couldn't clearly see what was going on at all. Although it was now an era of national cultivation, it would already be pretty good if you could find 10 soul formation cultivators among the 10 million people watching Daoist Guang's live stream. If you wanted to clearly see the trajectory of a bullet, you had to have dynamic vision at the soul formation stage at the very least. You can adjust the speed of the live stream. Everyone, slow down the video to the slowest. We should be able to see it clearly. At this time, some of the viewers in the live stream room suggested, and everyone started to follow suit. I can really see it clearly. It's just that it looks a little laggy. It's not that they're stuck. They're moving too fast and Lord Island's live stream frame rate can't keep up. Wang Ming crossed his arms in front of the computer screen and used his voice to control his character to execute all kinds of fancy counterattacks. Outside spin serve. Wang Ling, then, everyone saw the character controlled by Wang Ming knock the bullet to the ground with a wave of his hand. The bullet spun on the ground at a strange angle, then bounced up. These movements were completed in an instant. The bullet's trajectory was even faster, and it instantly appeared in front of Fang Xing's character. Just a little bit more and his head would have exploded. However, Fang Xing reacted very quickly as he swiftly waved the frying pan to block his face and counterattacked. It wasn't just the water friends in the live stream room, even Daoist Guang and the others couldn't help trembling and staring dumbstruck at this move. Father Wang, damn! What's going on? Grenade-throwing senior immortal. The hell? A swallow returning to its nest? On the other side, Fang Xing's bullet had just returned when Wang Ming's character started to perform again. Grenade-throwing senior immortal, the hell? The brown bear was caught. This time, even Loopy Toad and Wei Ji couldn't help crying out at the same time. F***K. Brown bear was caught. These skills were all high-level skills written in the new Guide to Glory. It was a new unit that the legendary Great God Yi had released based on the recent popularity of the game. And these skills were all from this new edition of the Frying Pan Special, which described all kinds of techniques to use the frying pan. However, there were very few people who could truly master this technique. The two of them faced each other and smacked each other's bullets with their frying pans. Wang Ming set up the software again and developed a private voice interface. Only Fang Xing could hear what Wang Ming said in this interface. Wang Ming crossed his fingers and rested his chin on his fingers as he sat upright in front of the screen, an indescribable smile on his face. Give up, classmate Fang, you can't beat me in this world. Oh, so it's Brother Ming, Fang Xing said in a clear and bright voice, looking as if he had just been enlightened. He noticed that he had entered a private voice channel. You already know the answer. Wang Ming smiled. Wang Ming didn't find it strange at all that Fang Xing knew his identity. Actually, Wang Ming had secretly investigated Fang Xing and knew his true identity. Because Fang Xing had inherited Immortal Shi Pai's formidable power from a young age, he had been sent to a secret national orphanage when he was born. It was an orphanage secretly established by the magnificent Immortal Special Forces Brigade. It housed all kinds of gifted children from all over the country. Often, children who inherited powerful abilities from a young age could go astray on their path of growth if they didn't receive the right guidance. Of course, Wang Ling was an exception, because Father and Mother Wang were very ambitious and firmly believed that they could educate Wang Ling well. And the facts proved that Father and Mother Wang had indeed done it. Wang Ming himself was naturally also gifted, but because he hadn't been able to cultivate since he was a child, he remembered that his parents had always educated him as an ordinary child. Apart from the fact that he had learned to speak very, very early, he hadn't noticed anything unusual about him. As for why he had been noticed by Huaxiao Nation's Cultivation Academy of Science, it was in fact purely because he had recommended himself. Wang Ming remembered that when he was 4 years old, he had sneaked out of bed while his parents were asleep to hack into the national database and find the email address of the president of Huaxiao Nation's Cultivation Academy of Science. Then, he had sent a paper he had written on magic treasures to him. Wang Ming had heard that when he had sent the paper to President Qi, the latter had been so excited that he had cried, so strictly speaking, Fang Xing and Magnificent Immortal had some connection. It wasn't until he had passed Magnificent Immortal's personality test at the age of 7 that Magnificent Immortal helped him find a couple who wanted to adopt a child. The name Fang Xing had actually been given by the Fang family couple who had come to adopt him back then. In the orphanage, Fang Xing didn't have his own name, only his code name. His code name was 36. Some of this information had been found out by Wang Ming, while others had been supplemented by Zhai Yin. For the most part, Zhai Yin's information on Magnificent Immortal was more reliable than what most people could get from gossip. It seems that Brother Ming knows a lot of things. Fang Xing replied as he waved the frying pan in response. My little brother is being watched every day, of course I would notice. Classmate Fang Xing, distance makes the heart grow fonder, you follow my little brother when he plays a game. Isn't that a little inappropriate? Brother Ming, you're wrong. Didn't you follow him as well? Wang Ming grit his teeth. It was a coincidence. At that moment, the two of them had already gone back and forth with the same bullet more than 10 times. When Wang Ming returned fire the next time, Fang Xing suddenly realized that the trajectory of the bullet's attack seemed to have changed. When he waved the frying pan, the bullet moved at a strange angle like an arc of lightning to avoid Fang Xing's next block. As he waved the frying pan, Fang Xing had already sensed that the situation wasn't good. Brother Ming, you're amazing, I've learned a lot. This time, Wang Ming's bullet successfully hit Fang Xing's head. Fang Xing was directly killed. The water friends in the live stream room were so shocked that their jaws dropped. They felt that Wang Ming's sudden change in style looked a little familiar. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's expression changed at this scene. What the hell? This is... Seeing that he had killed Fang Xing, Wang Ming smiled as he had wished. Good thing he was quick-witted. He had also written the data on the national table tennis style into the software. On the side, Daoist Guang was dumbstruck. Little brother, is this the table tennis style? Wang Ming nodded. That's right. To be precise, it should be the national table tennis style. When I use my national table tennis style, what do you use your head to catch my bullet? Everyone sucked in a cold breath at this scene, even Wang Ling couldn't help twitching the corner of his mouth. Chapter 504. Wang Ming wasn't the slightest bit surprised by this result. He indeed didn't have much talent in cultivation, but he believed that he had never lost in a digital game. Daoist Guang's live stream room was about to explode. Because of Wang Ming and Fang Xing's godly maneuver, the link to the live stream room was being forwarded like crazy online, and the number of people in Daoist Guang's live stream room very quickly broke the 10 million mark and was heading toward 11 million. In the study, Father Wang and Lai Mengmeng's mouths were wide enough to fit an egg in. Father Wang had already anticipated that after Daoist Guang's duel was taken off the air today, the video of Wang Ming and Fang Xing's duel would go viral online. Taking a deep, imperceptible breath, Father Wang forced himself to calm down and send Wang Ming a voice message. "Little Ming, is this really okay?" Father Wang felt that Wang Ming's action was a little excessive. Wang Ling had to hide his true strength, and Wang Ming had to hide his identity at the same time. In some sense, these two brothers were actually a little similar. Although Wang Ming was operating the character, TTXS, there was a lot of human flesh on the internet nowadays. If some meddlesome netizen really exposed Wang Ming's identity, it would be a big deal. "Uncle, don't worry, it's fine." Wang Ming sent a voice message in a rather understated manner. "Father Wang, aren't you afraid that netizens will do human flesh on you?" "Human flesh on me? Uncle, you're thinking too much." Wang Ming laughed. Human flesh on him? How could it be so easy? Although he had used the Research Institute's computer to have a little fun today, hacking into the game company's server terminal twice, and even personally killing that Fang Xing, it had indeed seemed a little high profile. But Wang Ming was confident that he hadn't left any loopholes. Forget the fact that the game company's technicians wouldn't be able to find out at all. It was complete nonsense for netizens to do human flesh on him. He had too many fake identities, and it was old Qi who had helped him register them. When Wang Ming had given Wang Ling the Dao talisman previously, the police had misunderstood and taken him to the police station. In the end, the only information they could find on him after a long investigation was the fake identity of Wang Shaoer. Always have a backup plan. "Once this video is released today, you'll definitely attract attention," said Father Wang. It's fine. I'll be responsible for deleting that video. I guarantee it won't be seen in the country. As for whether the game company will come after me, you don't have to worry, Uncle. Don't you still have old Qi? At the very most, I'll ask old Qi to give the game company a call and act cute to them." Cough. Hearing this, President Xi almost directly spat out his coffee on Wang Ming's screen and directly choked. No matter what, he was one of the 10 founding generals of Huaxiu Nation. To be able to sit on the same level as Yi Jianchuan, Jiang Lei, and Sun Dakang. What kind of identity was that? What does it mean to act cute? You're always bothering President Xi, isn't that too good? Of course Father Wang knew who this old Qi Wang Ming was talking about was. After all, old Qi's biggest boss was his fan, so Father Wang wasn't completely clueless about this. "It's all right, Uncle. I am a deep-water wolf and old Qi is a barb wolf. We've been partners like this all these years, perfectly concealing my true identity." Wang Ming laughed. Father Wang, President Qi, old Qi felt that he had spoiled Wang Ming a little too much in the last few years. Although they were superior and subordinate, old Qi had never used the tone of a superior to order Wang Ming to do anything. On one hand, Wang Ming did indeed do things neatly and efficiently, and was also quite reliable. On the other hand, Wang Ming had been here since he was very young. When he was 4, old Qi had discovered him, and after training him in private for 3 years, he had directly brought him back to the Research Institute. After spending more than 10 years together, old Qi had long since regarded Wang Ming as his own grandson. In the last few years, old Qi had also realized that the number of times he had to clean up Wang Ming's mess seemed to be increasing, and it was almost like a blowout. Seeing that Wang Ming and Father Wang were chatting happily, President Qi looked at the time and couldn't help reminding Wang Ming, "Little Ming, Jai Yin will be back very soon, it's fine. I'll leave now, and I'll still make it in time to queue up for a solo match." Wang Ming waved his hand. "But, no buts. She's just a woman, we men need to be unyielding, understand?" Wang Ming replied without turning his head. As soon as he said this, Wang Ming suddenly felt a slender hand full of cold air press down on his shoulder. Wang Ming, judging from the feeling on his shoulder, he was sure that this hand definitely didn't belong to President Qi. Play, game? Zhai Yin stared at Wang Ming's back, her gaze shifting unpredictably, making Wang Ming shudder. Holding his coffee cup, old Qi couldn't help sighing. He got up and patted Wang Ming on the shoulder as he stifled a laugh. I'm not just a barbed wolf, I'm also a prophet. Wang Ming, elsewhere, the game was still going on. After Wang Ming used his created character, TTXS, to kill Fang Xing, water friends in the live stream room quickly noticed that this anti-cheat little brother's character had started to twitch abnormally. Disconnected? Daoist Guang was blank. Father Wang dropped his forehead into his hand. No. I'd been sanctioned, Daoist Guang. Although he didn't know exactly what had happened to Wang Ming, Wang Ling felt that it most likely had something to do with Zhai Yin. Daoist Guang got back into the jeep and the water friends match resumed. It was already the last few circles. Because Wang Ming had disconnected and Fang Xing had been killed, there were now exactly 28 people. Wang Ling was still on the rooftop of the small building. This circle was already very small, and Wang Ling predicted that a chaotic battle was bound to break out soon. But he still hadn't seen Loopy Toad and Wei Ji. Given Dog 2's personality, Wang Ling felt that this guy might be hiding somewhere right now. The circle on the map was already very small, and the number of people continued to drop at a very slow pace amid the sounds of gunfire. In the last few safe circles, a lot of people weren't playing as casually as before, and were starting to be especially cautious. At that moment, Wang Ling suddenly heard the faint sound of a door opening. Someone had circled around from behind. This instantly raised Wang Ling's vigilance. At the same time, he was still on the rooftop, and he heard this group's conversation. Brother Dog, it looks like this building has already been searched. Maybe there's someone inside. Be careful. Loopy Toad nodded. By the way, Brother Dog, how long are you going to play today? One more round at most. So soon. In front of the screen, Loopy Toad shook its soft green fur. I don't know why, as soon as I walked into this house, I felt like my master was staring at me. Chapter 505. Wang Ling was silent on the rooftop as he quietly listened to Wei Ji and Loopy Toad's conversation. One man and one dog were very vigilant as they searched every inch of this small building. This was a small military factory with a circular layout, and there were a lot of machinery and equipment. This was usually the kind of place where LYBs were most likely to appear. When all was said and done, PUBG was a survival shooting game. As long as you could survive to the end, there was nothing to be ashamed of even if you got 0 kills. So in this kind of game, big players had their own way of playing and small players had their own way of playing. Big players competed with their marksmanship, while small players competed with their wits, so moral integrity and whatnot didn't exist at all. Because the building Wang Ling was in the center of the safe zone, Loopy Toad and Wei Ji were especially careful in their search. It was very obvious that someone had already searched this place. If no one was crouching there, this was definitely the most advantageous position in this safe zone. The only place where they could snipe this building was the crane, but after the last round of the blue circle's contraction, the crane was already inside the blue circle, so they could basically eliminate this unstable factor. Loopy Toad and Wei Ji had their characters back to back as they searched the first and second floors. Now, only the third floor and the rooftop were left. Brother Dog, are you really going to leave after a while? Wei Ji actually felt that they didn't have enough time. 2 rounds of PUBG, even if it was a quality match, would only last 1.5 hours at most, which actually wasn't enough time to enjoy themselves to the fullest. Brother Dog, how about you tell your master directly? At that moment, Wei Ji suggested that Loopy Toad come clean and talk to him properly. As a professional pet trainer, most of the time, the relationship between a pet trainer and a spirit beast wasn't that of an owner and a pet. For Wei Ji, an outstanding pet trainer should position himself as a friend in front of the spirit beast he had signed a contract with. Only then would it be beneficial for long-term development. This was also a technique to improve tacit understanding. Most of the time, a spirit beast's personality could in fact reflect its master's personality. Looking at Loopy Toad's personality, Weiji felt that its master was probably a relatively open-minded and lively person. Actually, the word lively seemed a little out of place for him, but Weiji wasn't wrong. Although Wang Ling didn't say anything, at least he was very lively in his heart. No, let me go back first. Loopy Toad still felt a little cowardly. For some reason, it realized that as it moved its character from the first floor to the second floor, and then from the second floor to the third floor, the feeling of little Master Ling staring at it intensified, as if little Master Ling was right next to it, staring at it and listening to it speak. Alright then. Weiji pursed his lips and didn't insist. Weiji hadn't planned on playing games today at first, but Loopy Toad had set the pace, and as he played, his interest had been piqued. Now that Loopy Toad had suddenly said that it would be leaving, Weiji felt a little disappointed. He realized that he really liked Loopy Toad. After these few interactions, Weiji was already burdened by the lack of spirit beast rations, and had even taken on a part-time job as a spellmaster for spirit beasts, but even so, Weiji still had the urge to raise a dog. Loopy Toad looked at Weiji's silent expression next to it and said, "Worst comes to worst, we can find a chance to get online later. I bought a computer." Weiji was taken aback. "Where did you get the money, Loopy Toad? It's a trade between peers." Weiji, Wang Ling was blank at this answer, but he very quickly thought of a possibility. He felt that Loopy Toad's source of income most likely came from Little Silver. That was because he remembered that when he and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had chatted previously, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had brought up Little Silver's lifestyle. Since Little Silver ate a lot and ordered a lot of takeout every day, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had straightaway transferred 1,000,000 yuan to Little Silver's card. Thus, Little Silver had some money on him. As for how Loopy Toad had made a deal with Little Silver, Wang Ling would have to confirm it later to find out. Actually, Wang Ling had thought of a lot of answers, and felt that this one was the most reasonable. That was because he knew that Loopy Toad and Little Silver had added each other as friends, and when they had just added each other, Loopy Toad had even used its dog legs to tease Little Silver. Mobile payments in China were now #1 in the world, and online transfers were too convenient. This also explained why Loopy Toad had so much money on it. Weiji asked curiously, "Did you spend money to buy those cultivation methods?" "Of course not, they're contraband. My friend gave them to me." Loopy Toad shook its head. The spirit techniques that Little Silver had given it were already out of print and couldn't be bought outside. That basic dog skills, in particular, was probably the famous spirit technique of the Holy Dog clan back then. Dog Saint had personally researched it, and it was very much in line with the design of dog body engineering. The third floor of the military factory was very big. As the two of them searched the rooms and chatted, they didn't notice at all that Wang Ling was eavesdropping on them from the rooftop. "So, you've learned them all?" Weiji asked again. "No. I'm still studying them." Loopy Toad sighed. "It's not that easy. Did you get agitated after coming back from that small town of the Demon Hunters Association? I felt that you didn't cultivate any spirit techniques before." Loopy Toad, speaking of this, Loopy Toad suddenly felt a little sad. It wasn't that it didn't know any spirit techniques. It just couldn't use them. All the techniques and spirit techniques of the Toad clan were now in its head, but apart from the space-swallowing spell and tongue technique, there were no other techniques that suited it at all. Thus, Loopy Toad felt that its current situation was like switching from a mage to a warrior in the middle of a game, and it couldn't use any of its equipment or skills. Every spirit beast had its own characteristics, and it was impossible to mix and match a melee mage like this in the spirit beast circle. "I've been concentrating on cultivating techniques before, but if I want to defend myself, I still need to learn a few techniques." Loopy Toad muttered to itself before saying, "I'm learning all these for the tribe." It sounded like a joke at first, and Wei Ji didn't take it to heart, but Wang Ling suddenly thought of something. For the tribe? Wang Ling suddenly felt like he understood something. Combined with Loopy Toad's recent abnormal behavior, as well as the first version of the Gate Between Worlds blueprint which Daoist Guang had given Loopy Toad previously, Wang Ling was now very sure that what Loopy Toad was hiding most likely had something to do with the Gate Between Worlds. Or to be more precise, it had something to do with the Toad clan inside the gate. Thinking this, he directly turned off the game. Brother Ling, you're not playing anymore? Grenade-throwing senior immortal was blank. Wang Ling nodded. He had more or less figured out the whole story, so there was no need to play the game anymore. Wang Ling's original purpose in playing the game had been to find out what on earth Loopy Toad was hiding from him. Sitting in his chair, Wang Ling cupped his chin in his hand as he pondered for a while, sorting out the things he had just deduced in his mind. About 5 minutes later, Grenade-throwing senior immortal suddenly noticed a very strange phenomenon. Grenade-throwing senior immortal, eh? Brother Ling, your character doesn't seem to have disconnected. Wang Ling. Grenade-throwing senior immortal didn't quit the game. He switched his view to Wang Ling's character, and realized that more than half of his character's body was stuck in a corner. Grenade-throwing senior immortal deduced that this was probably a bug caused by Wang Ling directly turning off the game. But the problem was that no one would be able to find Wang Ling at all. Bloody hell, Brother Ling, we're going to win chicken dinner. Grenade-throwing senior immortal was stunned. This was King possible? Chapter 506. Wang Ling rarely played games, because for him, they were really boring. But this game was different, and he finally found some fun and value in it. At least, this was a bridge to communicate with Buttface. Because of Loopy Toad's special identity, Wang Ling was usually very careful and never asked it too many questions about its previous life as a demon king. He was afraid that he would agitate his Buttface and cause irreversible damage to Buttface's mind. Actually, after careful analysis, Wang Ling felt that Loopy Toad's experience before it had become a dog had really traumatized it. First of all, when Buttface was still a demon king, he was pushed out of the Gate Between Worlds by other demon kings. He landed on the ground for less than 3 seconds before he was killed by Su Kei's fists. The second was the entrance test. Buttface's primordial spirit was placed in the testing system of the school and used by the students as a sandbag for the grading test at the beginning of the school term. In the end, it met him again. Wang Ling remembered that Dog 2 had been so scared at that time that it had fallen flat on its back and rolled its eyes. Finally, it was the third time. In Teacher Pan's Dao Talismans class, everyone used spirit summoning talismans to summon ghosts. At that time, Dog 2 had racked his brains and abandoned most of his primordial spirit in an attempt to escape from the school. In the end, he hadn't even made it out of the school gates before he was summoned to the class with a talisman. And then, there was no then, Buttface had completely turned into a dog. Wang Ling felt that Loopy Toad was probably the only one who knew what it was like to run into 2 existences that could be said to be childhood shadows in a row. Wang Ling didn't ask about Loopy Toad's predecessor, but that didn't mean he didn't care. After all, this was his dog too, who had already been acknowledged by his family. As its master, there was no way he could ignore it. From what Wang Ling could sense now, Loopy Toad's worries clearly had something to do with its tribe in the Gate Between Worlds, and it was very likely that there was something urgent on its mind. As for why Loopy Toad hadn't directly discussed it with him, he also had his own analysis. Before Buttface had turned into a dog, he had been a demon king and had been arrogant. He also had the determination to bid farewell to his past. So, this guy actually wanted to end it all himself. Wang Ling was also shocked. Where did Buttface get his courage from? Liang Jingru. Given Loopy Toad's current overall fighting strength, Wang Ling felt that Dog 2 entering the door would be pure suicide. Wang Ling communicated his deduction telepathically to Grenade-throwing senior immortal. Grenade-throwing senior immortal's expression was also indescribably shocked. Brother Ling, do you think that Brother Dog's abnormal reaction recently has something to do with the sky-swallowing toad clan and the Gate Between Worlds? This answer was unexpected for grenade-throwing senior immortal, but completely reasonable. After thinking about it, grenade-throwing senior immortal increasingly felt that Wang Ling's answer was very reliable. Brother Dog hasn't completely severed ties with his predecessor, so it's indeed possible that he has connections with the original tribe of the Gate Between Worlds. Saying this, grenade-throwing senior immortal looked at Mr. Lu, who was sitting upright on the floor in a well-behaved manner. After the heavy injury effect of Little Silver's phlegm disappeared, the spell of creation and rebirth had already taken effect. Mr. Lu's injuries were now completely healed, but there were still some bloodstains on the surface of his skin. The regenerative abilities of the Treants were indeed terrifying. Grenade-throwing senior immortal couldn't help sighing in his heart. It was all thanks to Little Silver's phlegm, otherwise it would have been very difficult to deal with them. Unless they had the explosive power of Wang Ling's crippling attack, other true immortal experts really might not be able to kill them. Mr. Lu, how much do you know about the Gate Between Worlds? Grenade-throwing senior immortal asked. Mr. Lu was originally a demon tree from the Gate Between Worlds. Although he was now working in the human world, he definitely had some way to keep in touch with the Treants in the Gate Between Worlds. Mr. Lu thought for a bit, then nodded and replied, I have a magic artifact that can indeed keep in touch with my clan. Now that things had come to this, Mr. Lu had already decided to switch sides, so he didn't hide it anymore. He indeed had a way to keep in touch with the Treants in the Gate Between Worlds, but he could only get in touch with some of the clan's elders. Then can you ask me about the Sky-Swallowing Toad clan? I'll have to find out more. The truth is that the demon race isn't as united as humans think. All the clans plot against each other, and in order to compete for territory and resources, they use all kinds of excuses to break out all year round. Speaking up to this point, Mr. Lu sighed. If the demon world was really peaceful, there would be no need for him to take the risk of coming to the human world to work, and for him to be duped with a fake spirit sword. That was truly a great humiliation. The truth was that grenade-throwing senior immortal had some understanding of what Mr. Lu was talking about, but he hadn't confirmed it yet. The demon world wasn't peaceful. In fact, someone had leaked this information anonymously on the cultivation forum before, but grenade-throwing senior immortal had always been skeptical about it. But now that he heard Mr. Lu say this, grenade-throwing senior immortal suddenly recalled some of the juicy information that the informant had leaked. It seemed that the informant had mentioned that a large-scale battle was about to break out in the demon world between the two major clans. I'll have to trouble Mr. Lu to find out more about this, grenade-throwing senior immortal said as he cupped his chin and looked at Mr. Lu. Mr. Lu nodded. All right. I've already discussed it with Brother Ling. From now on, Mr. Lu will work for me. We won't send you to the police station for the time being, but before that, you have to atone for your crimes. Do you have any objections? No, Mr. Lu lowered his head and kept glancing at Wang Ling out of the corner of his eye. As grenade-throwing senior immortal spoke, he saw that Wang Ling was thoughtfully fiddling with the mouse pad in his hand, which made Mr. Lu shudder all over. Previously, it was just a very casual attack, and a mouse pad had almost killed him on the spot. He didn't want to be whipped again. Previously, I took in a butler with the surname Song. His full name was Song Qingshu. He's helping me with some of the extra properties. You just need to follow him and work for him. He will guide you through the journey of atonement bit by bit. Saying this, grenade-throwing senior immortal smiled. Actually, it's not a very difficult job. Mr. Lu should be very good at it. Specifically, what kind of work? Mr. Lu was still a little flustered. Grenade-throwing senior immortal, recently, the country has invested a lot of charity money to set up a lot of rescue stations and orphanages in remote areas. But because they're all new, the smell inside is too strong. It just so happens that Mr. Lu can help remove the formaldehyde or something. Mr. Lu, you're tuning into the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.